Bunch of resolutions.
Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, December 2nd, and I would like to call our Chattanooga City Council meeting to order. Hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving and is getting in the spirit for Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas coming up. It's an exciting time of year. To get us started, I'd like to invite Vice Chairwoman Knoll to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather in this season of reflection, gratitude, and hope, allow us to take a moment to acknowledge the blessings and the responsibilities placed before us. May this holiday season remind us of the power of community, of neighbors looking out for one another, and of compassion offered freely. Grant us wisdom tonight as we make decisions that shape the future of our city. Help us lead with fairness, humility, and a spirit of unity. Serve every resident with dignity and respect. We ask for peace for those facing hardship. I often say that the struggle is real. Comfort for those who are grieving, and joy for families and communities coming together in celebration. May we enter the new year with a renewed purpose and a deeper appreciation for the diverse voices that make our city whole. We ask that you bless our mayor, Tim Kelly, who we know the road that he traveled is not easy. In this season, Lord, of giving, may we continue to give our best. Amen, amen, and amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We have a special presentation today. I invite Councilwoman Dotley to the podium.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you for the great prayer, Madam Vice Chair. Today, we have a special presentation for Mr. Mitchell Williams. Is he here? I see him over there. Hey, Mr. Williams, thank you for trucking on down here for us. This is one of my amazing St. Elmo residents. So this is his proclamation. Chattanooga City Council Proclamation. Whereas the City of Chattanooga proudly recognizes and honors citizens who have made outstanding contributions through their service, character, and example. And whereas Mr. Mitchell Williams, a beloved resident of the St. Elmo community, celebrated his 100th birthday on November 5th, 2025. And whereas Mr. Williams answered the call to serve his country with courage and distinction as a member of the United States Armed Forces during World War II, stationed in Aleutian Islands, I could be saying it wrong, where his dedication and sacrifice helped secure the freedoms we cherish today. And whereas following his military service, Mr. Williams continued to serve his community through hard work, integrity, and kindness, spending many years employed at Food City, where his friendly spirit and familiar presence became a cherished part of the neighborhood. And whereas to this day, Mr. Williams continues to embody the values of perseverance, community, and joy, faithfully keeping his daily routine, greeting neighbors from his front porch, sharing stories of Chattanooga's history, and offering words of wisdom and warmth to all who pass by. And whereas his life is a living testament to the strength of character, humility, and service that define the very best of Chattanooga's citizens. Now therefore be it proclaimed proclaimed. I, City Councilwoman Rakita Dotley, representing the City of Chattanooga, do hereby proclaim December 2nd, 2025 as Mitchell Williams Day in the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and encourage all citizens to join in celebrating his remarkable life, his service to our nation, and his lasting impact on the St. Elmo community. Today is Mitchell Williams Day, so y'all give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Yes, thank you all so much. He celebrated 100 years, and that's a long time to be around, and we appreciate his service. Mr. Williams, would you or your family like to come and say a word?
Yes. Look at me.
And thank you so much for indulging us, Madam Chair. Y'all okay? Oh, okay, they said never mind. Well, I'm gonna take this to him, and I'm good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Well,
Yes,
council,
ma'am.
what a joyful way to start our meeting. Let's get going on taking a look at, oh, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna approve the minutes.
Absolutely.
Motion on the minutes, council.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Second, all right, council, we have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes with a proper second. I'm gonna let those minutes stand unless we have any objection. All right, now let's talk about our agenda for today.
Yes.
We do have some items on final reading. I intend to take those as a package, items B, C, and D as a package, and E and F as a package. If you have any questions or concerns about that, please go ahead and hit your light. All right, moving into first reading, we have wastewater items. Our planning items, if you want to talk about those, please hold your questions because we are having a planning and zoning meeting this afternoon. And these items, I believe, have been deferred, but we'll talk about that in planning and zoning. So looking at resolutions. Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I do have a question for Economic Development about the Northgate TIF resolutions.
Good afternoon, Council. Sherry Allen, Senior Advisor for Economic and Workforce Development here at the city.
All right. So with regard in particular to the water portion of the proposed project, what can you tell us about the funding sources and the entities who may or may not be involved?
Thank you for that question. So the water portion that we're discussing is related to the proposed Northgate Mall, Hickson area infrastructure project. That project consists of both stormwater, wastewater, the sewer wastewater piece, and then there's a water portion of it. The water lines are currently owned by Hickson Utility District. It is a separate entity. They service those lines as well. The proposal for the project is for the total project to be one particular package, one entire package, with the proposed $8.9 million project, including the water lines being replaced as part of that project. Staff did reach out to Hickson Utility District. We had 3 conversations with the general manager. General manager invited us to present to the Hickson Utility District Board. We had a great conversation with the Hickson Utility District Board. They are in a position where they do not have funds in their capital plan for replacement of the water lines. They are also not in a position to propose an assessment on their current water users to reimburse for the construction of those water lines. And as a result, Hickson Utility District will not be participating financially in this project. That being said, they are open to working with the developer on making sure the lines are built to district standards so that when they're dedicated over, they would accept those lines, they would own and repair those lines in perpetuity in the future. So again, at this point, Hickson Utility District is no longer in the conversations as it relates to proposed or potential funding or reimbursement of those water lines.
Okay. So then are there other funding sources that the city is looking at?
The city has been having conversations actually since August with the Appalachian Regional Commission about a water infrastructure grant that they have. The pre-application for that would be December 5th. We would submit application December 5th following the establishment of the TIF district. And that particular application requires a match. The proposed match would be any sales tax or property tax district that is within that district or the proposed plan. That could be used as a match towards applying for a $1 million grant for construction for the water lines. The only way that the city would be able to apply for that particular grant would be there has to be a match, and the city ordinarily would never put forward a match for that type of situation. But because proposed increment and sales tax would be used, those could count as a match for us to be able to apply for the other. That's a pre-application. It does not mean we're guaranteed that grant. That's why we have not sort of included that in the capital stack at any point during the conversation. But we did have conversations with our local ARC folks in August, and they said, we're not sure about the TIF. And then September, October, so they've been following all the proceedings, as has everyone else. And so when it got to a point where they said, okay, it looks like you guys might move forward with this, consider making application, but here's your deadline. That would be submitted. There's a committee that would review it at the ARC at the state level, and then they would come back and let us know whether we would be eligible to make application. At that point, we would come to council, ask for, with a resolution that asks for permission to apply and accept, if awarded, a grant from the ARC, and then that would start that process.
Okay. And then if the water portion of the project were removed from the rest of the project, what would that do to the viability of the project overall?
It jeopardizes the project overall, and it jeopardizes it not just from sort of a funding capacity, but it's also our ability to complete the rest of the rest of the project in partnership with the developers. So again, that but-for analysis that was required, when that came back from the third-party reviewer, the third-party reviewer gave us sort of that range, and the low end of the range said, 7.7 is basically what the developer would have to receive in financing in order to even make the project have a positive return on it. And so again, looking at that, we would say we would want the water to stay in to make this a viable project for consideration.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Madam Chair, I do just want to kind of overall reiterate my support for the project. I won't belabor all those points I've already made, but I will say I know there's been some concern raised by other council members, as well as a lot of concern that I've heard within the district about what might eventually be developed at the Northgate Mall site, and kind of a desire to have input, community input and impact on what's eventually developed. And so what I intend to bring before this council in a week or so, just as soon as I can get it together, is a resolution that would urge the Industrial Development Board, when they're developing the development agreement with CBL, to prioritize uses that the community has expressed a preference for, and then hopefully minimizing uses that are disfavored within the community. And of course, this project, if it goes forward and is redeveloped, it's not just for District 3. It directly touches several districts on the north end of the city. But hopefully, residents from across Chattanooga would use it. And so I would welcome any input that any council members would have in that resolution. If there's concerns you've heard, uses, great ideas, please send those to me so that I can include those in that resolution. That's all I have, Chairwoman. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, is this about that same item?
It is.
Okay, go
Yep,
ahead,
thank you.
ma'am.
So Sharita, I have a question kind of tacking along to the water lines. I'm in favor of this project as well and support what Councilman Davis said. How do we craft language in what we're doing today, or maybe it's further down the road, that you all go ahead and proceed with seeing if we can get that grant, and then if we don't get the grant, then we're still in for covering the part of the fee that we said that we would? I mean, how do we craft that?
So we do have our TIF attorney here with us today, and we did work on some language around that because we knew this was a concern, so we
Yeah.
came prepared for that. And what that looks like is allowing the project to move forward with the water included, but limiting the use of tax increment dollars towards the water unless city staff comes back to the council and asks for permission to use those dollars.
Okay,
So it keeps the project intact, but while we're looking for other sources of funding, and then at the point where that funding does not come to fruition, we then come back and ask for use of that 1.6 million in sales tax or property tax that could be used towards the water.
Okay, because if there's an opportunity, because you and I, and thank you for all the education that you've provided me, and it sounds like we have a better chance than not getting some grant funding. I know it's not guaranteed, but I hate to miss out on that opportunity and that money go to some other community when it's there, the opportunity's there for us to get it.
It is a competitive grant, but we
Yeah.
have been having
Optimistic
regular
conversations.
conversations with ARC to keep us in the
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah. I mean, I applaud the city for kind of taking charge and trying to find the funding for another utilities infrastructure. So I think that bodes well to us in saying that we want to make sure that this happens and we're willing to go out and find other sources. So if there's some language that goes into, and I guess this question is for the attorney, if there's some language that goes into it that moves forward with the project, with our commitment to partner with CBL, but and also says, in the event that we're able to secure any grant funding, whether it's through the one that you described or maybe something else comes up, that will be used first versus tax dollars.
So, Mark Mamatoff with Bassbury and Sims. We can, if you would choose to want to do something like that, for both the economic impact plan resolution and the sales tax agreement resolution, you could, and we can draft some language if you would like it, that would basically say that the resolutions are essentially amended so that they're conditioned upon not spending money on the water lines unless we come back to council to get approval to do that. So that we have the incentive, we, the city folks, staff, as well as the developer, to try to get other sources, and if we're unsuccessful, to come back to them, because if we do take the water line out totally and don't get other sources, it really would affect the financial viability of the overall incentive. But I think you would want to, you could have a second bite at the apple if you wanted to do that at that time. So we can certainly give you that language. I think we also wanted to suggest, based on the third-party report, that the but-for analysis we got, that we hope somebody would lower the 9.2 million that's in the plan to 8.
That was my next, that was my
8.7.
next.
So we have some language for that too, trying to
Okay.
be prepared, so we can share that if that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I would like to include that language, and I'll propose it as an amendment to the resolution, if you all are willing to hear that. And then to the second point, replacing that 9.2 with the 8.7, because we
Yes.
did discuss that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it sounded reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's, well, it was a very difficult methodology, and I'm sure our friends at CBL would say that there was, the assumption here, assumption there could have changed that, and they're right, obviously, but we felt like 8.7, lowering it $500,000 was a good compromise, and I think the staff is asking you all to consider that, so.
And then one other question, Madam Chair. Will you clarify, either of you clarify for me that that the developer will be obligated to the baseline, tax baseline, regardless of how the property
That's a
values
great
go up and
question,
down
actually,
over the
yeah.
20-year period? So regardless of the status of the property, whatever that 520, I don't have that exact amount, that will stay steady over the 20 years or over the period of the debt until the debt's paid off, and then.
Yeah, I had one of those OMG moments at our last time I was down here with you all, when I was sitting there thinking through this, because this is unusual, because we know we're going to do a TIF, we're about to demolish possibly a mall in 4 to 5 years, right? And so, hey, I mean, it's only valued at 6 million, I know only, but those malls were at sometimes tens of millions of dollars. So it's not that much money, but we know it's going to be demolished. So unless we have other things to take its place, we will actually take a step backward, at least for a period of time. We've talked through that with the developer, and we're going to address that in the development agreement, so
Okay.
that we would always get our baseline.
Okay, regardless?
Yes.
Okay. That is it, Madam Chair.
I mean,
Thank
if you want to make a motion to that effect as well, but I can tell you that's our game plan.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
hate to, it's like a handshake agreement.
Yeah.
It may be smart to put it in writing, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So-
I did not prepare a motion for that, but I can help
But
with
if we
one if you
could,
want one.
yes, yeah, I would
sure.
appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilman Henderson, is your light lit to discuss this topic? Okay, Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think we definitely need an agreement at this point in time. I mean, in regard to at least the baseline. And Sharita, the last time we talked about this, we talked about whether to use the 2024 baseline or the 2025 baseline. I was under the understanding that we could use the 2025 baseline, and it actually added a little bit to that baseline. But you were telling me a few minutes ago that would take out the increment that we're looking at with BJ's and Culverson's?
So where, the current projections for the TIF have all been based on the tax base year being 2024. And so any incremental taxes that will come in for 2025, that increment is what we're capturing to pay for the infrastructure. Because again, it's an infrastructure TIF, so we're using current development and recent development that's underway, and we're capturing the incremental growth over the tax base and using that incremental to pay for the infrastructure. Because again, there's not a vertical project that's generating all of this. It's these other projects that are currently happening. What we're trying to do is capture that increment before it goes into our general fund. And so again, the basis will go into the general fund, but the incremental growth, that's what's going to fund the infrastructure that will generate additional taxes long-term. That's what we're trying to capture. So to move it out a year means you're not capturing that, that's going to your base now. So you have less increment that you're going to be capturing, which means there's less funding in the TIF district for the infrastructure of the project. And the other piece of that is all of our calculations over the past 5 months have been based on a 2024 tax year, not 2025.
So let me bring up one other thing about the base. And Mark, I think I understood you to say, I had asked last time, rather than the base staying flat, any tax increases that we experience over the next 20 years could be applied to that base. I thought I understood you to say, so that base could grow and that we would receive more into our general funds if we applied any tax increases to that base.
Yes, I mean, state law says that if you approve this plan this month, the base taxes are going to be 2024. But state law also says that you can withhold more than what state law require, the floor. It's a floor, it's not a minimum. So, but it does say that, so your base for state law purposes will be 2024 taxes. But if you chose, Councilmember Henderson, to make a motion to increase it, either by amending the economic impact plan or just by instructing us to make sure we covered in the development agreement, yes, you could definitely do that, and we could implement that.
Okay.
And your questions last time was what made me realize about the base, that how it could go down, so thank you for your good questions.
And so that would be an amendment to this that basically would be included in the development agreement.
Well, you could amend the actual plan. It's probably easier if you don't mind, because you could also, in response to the water line, if you could just make your approval conditioned upon the development agreement, including an increase in the base, that would be the easiest way to implement it for us. But either way is fine.
Okay. Thank you. Sharita, The next thing I also had asked about was creating a business improvement district so that the businesses around this loop would also contribute to this, making this a true public and private partnership, because they will benefit from these improvements. Where are we on creating a business improvement district that we could address some revenues from these businesses that would benefit?
Staff has currently not looked into the next steps of creating either a business improvement district or looking at the infrastructure development sort of district assessment that's new here in the state. We're happy to come forward in 2026 and do an economic development committee overview of those two particular tools and how they might apply in this particular situation, recognizing business improvement districts historically have been for cleanup, crime prevention, some of those other things, whereas this is straight infrastructure. And as our TIF attorney did mention last time, with the infrastructure development district, that requires 100% approval of this body in order to put it in place. But it also requires 100% of the participants or the 20 businesses that are located in the district self-assessing themselves, essentially. So they would have to agree that they want to assess themselves to go through this. So we did not include that as part of these deliberations because it has not been shopped with any of the other property owners around. It has not been fully explored with CBL, and it has not been fully explored with either the city or the IDB from a staffing, management, cost to set up standpoint.
Okay.
Would you like to add anything to that? Ooh, our TIF attorney wants to add to that.
No, I don't, I know it's only probably me in this room that's interested in this stuff, so I'm sorry, but I would, as I mentioned last time, there's all these different, there's at least 4 different special assessment statutes. It would be, I think, and I don't know if you'll happen to know, Hamilton County got their first request for one under the new statute. I don't think the new statute will apply because you literally have to have every single property owner who would be assessed to actually join in the application. And if you'll never get 17 people to agree to that. There are other mechanisms that I mentioned that you all would essentially have to agree to cram down an assessment. Some take a supermajority vote, some don't. If you all would indulge, I'd be delighted to come and walk you all through each alternative and decide whether you want to do it. You don't have to do it as part of this. This would still be an alternative to, say, in January. And I don't think we'll have a development agreement done. I mean, this is going to be a hard development agreement, as I discussed in response to some of your questions, Chairman Hill, last time. And so, I mean, we can definitely come back and talk about it. It really will make it tough on CBL, but I mean, if that's something that you all want to look at, I can walk you through the processes and what the forms would look like and what, super majority versus thing. But, that will be a fairly complicated discussion. But I can assure you that I don't think the new statute, which everybody's talking about, would be very workable here because of the requirement that every property owner join in the request.
Madam Chair, I don't know how you'd want to handle that, but I mean, that's something that I would like to look into. And I certainly don't speak for the rest of this council. And I don't know if the majority would like to look into this or would rather not look into it. But just, looking at the scope of this work, it looks like the city is carrying the water on this infrastructure improvement, whereas I believe that we could work something more amenable to the taxpayers of this city by looking at some kind of business improvement district where the people that are benefiting from the improvements are contributing as well.
What I'm hearing Mark say is that moving forward with something like that is a complex process that would be served well with a good amount of thoughtfulness and time. So are you suggesting that you want to see those two together and therefore hold off on moving forward with this TIF until you have that?
Well, so if it's my understanding, I had asked about deferring this for that purpose, but but I think then that delays us being able to do the pre-submittal
Correct.
for the matching grant. If that is something that we could look at after this, and so this goes basically to the IDB, then the development agreement is hashed out, and then we in turn vote on that, correct?
That's correct. And so what the deliberations and the comments from council will feed into the development agreement that then goes to the IDB. So when the IDB gets it, they understand which portions of the development agreement have come from city council. And then, and again, I think on our schedule, we said January. That's a little aggressive. It's probably going to go to the IDB in February.
And Councilman Davis is bringing a resolution that would include instructions imploring the IDB to handle certain things within the development agreement, which personally I like a lot because it gives them some teeth in the discussion, because it's not just their ideas, it's also the city council's. About how we might learn more about how to use bid tools, I think we have two options, two very clear options as a council, either within the economic development working group related to specific areas that council members and Councilman Clark, I believe Councilman Elliott are on. I think that would be a great place to learn about that, but also in strategic planning could also be another opportunity. So I think we can let our colleagues who are focusing on some specific economic development areas lead us in that.
Could we also have this in our economic development committee here? Committee meeting?
We could also, yes, so we have three options, yes. And I know from my own district, I've got some business owners that are interested in discussing that for a section of District 2. They've been talking about it. I think that there's been some conversation in other districts about that as well. So for all of our council to be well informed about how those tools work would be, I think, a boon to all of us. So we can think about where we would put that.
Okay,
Do you have any other questions?
that's it, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Elliott, is this related to the TIF?
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
All right.
This
I
actually-
keep asking that because I have something to say, but I want to make sure all of you get to say your piece.
No, this is actually related to Councilman Henderson's thoughts. Understanding that, we can look at this bid, whatever that looks like, if we decide to go ahead and move forward with this, considering the timing with end of the year, making sure if we do move forward with this, we can still capture the 2024 increment. So essentially, if we wait till 2025 and that increment goes away, basically it kills the purpose of the deal, essentially. But what if we decided to move forward with it now? Would you be okay if we had a Economic Development Committee meeting on January 13th to consider these bid options and the best way to move forward with them? After the fact, if we decide to go ahead and let this go through, then we can layer this on afterward, so we can make sure we can capture that increment, that is secure, and then we can consider other options. Is that something that will work as the best path forward?
Based on what Mark Mamatoff has said, I think it's going to need a lot more discussion than that. But if we would like to have an introductory session on bids.
I think that at least gives us a better idea as to what our options are, especially I heard he said there's 4 different scenarios, what that could look like as far as owners signing into the program versus what does it look like for this to be a city mandate. And this kind of gives us an idea, okay, this is in place now. What is the best route to make sure that we can explore your thoughts to make sure if we can pull some of this burden off the city?
Can I ask a follow-up? Mark, so on a business improvement district, the property owners are the ones that are assessed, not necessarily the business owners, correct?
Correct.
It's right. So if there's a retail center on a lot, then it would be assessed. That is often why people won't agree onto a pre-existing structure, because they often haven't thought through that in their leases and can't pass on the cost to their lessees, and they're like, I'm not going to do this, I can't do this. Yeah.
Sharita, do we know how many property owners there are in that loop?
There are 14 lots, that's why I keep using the,
They're
yeah.
not owned all.
Well, I understand, but does that mean there's 14 property owners?
Oh, of the 14 lots, are probably have some joint ownership. Is that, I don't know if we know what some of, how many of them have joint owners, but there would be,
There's at least 9.
I don't know if you heard, John, there's at least 9
different
separate,
property
yeah,
owners.
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't mean to intrude on your proceedings, but just when, like, poor Franklin, they've had 5 workshops already on special assessments, this new law, because they're trying to adopt policy. Something you all probably don't know is, like, if a developer shows up tomorrow with a petition under this new law, you have to vote on it in 30 days under this new law. And so we're trying to help a lot of our, because I almost exclusively represent governmental sides, is like helping people think through how to provide an orderly process to this. So I don't know if you'll want to sort of start this discussion on sort of how this process works and be prepared for it when you're ready for it too. So that could be something, I could be glad to provide you all with some forms of what other people, if you want to start sort of looking into how this is being
If we were to
done.
have it in as a committee meeting, it would be about a 10 to 15-minute presentation versus if we were to hold it in a work group,
Yeah.
we would have an unlimited amount of time versus if we were to hold it in strategic planning, we would have approximately 40 minutes. So that's why I say if we want to have an introductory, here's a glossary kind of meeting in economic development, the 13th will work. That won't be a problem. We have community development on the schedule for that day as well. So we would need to keep it tight. But
Yep.
if that is, if that's what you all would like to do, we certainly can.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not saying, so we can do it in committee, we can do it in strategic planning, whatever makes sense. But to make sure that this conversation doesn't go by the wayside, you know? It seems like this is very important. And so I'd rather see, like, let's land on a date so we can continue it, so it's just not floating out there. So we can keep this conversation going and take some action if needed.
Pardon me for being out of turn, but we could always start strategic planning at 12. I mean, we can move it up if this is something that we need to spend some time on.
Can we have a strategic planning on that day?
We have slots open in strategic planning in February.
Oh, is that too long?
That's,
Our next strategic planning opening is February
yeah,
3rd.
that's a little ways out. Let's just do it in committee.
You do a committee? Madam Chair, are you fine with a committee meeting on the 13th?
Sure, we will have approximately 15 minutes for a committee meeting on the 13th. So I think that'd be a great introductory, and then we can decide how we want to move forward after that. Okay, Melissa, will you make a note of that, please, and get it added to our schedule? Thank you.
Question. You said it was 15 minutes?
We typically hold presentations at 10 to 15 minutes, yes, for the courtesy of the council and the public in our committee meetings. That is our
Okay.
standard.
Okay.
And then we have longer sessions for strategic planning, and then work groups as designed are designed to be for as long as that work group would like to.
Okay.
All of which are public meetings.
Yeah.
And each one, I think, gives a different type of environment for conversation and brainstorming. So each one has its strength.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything else on the TIF?
No, ma'am, that's all.
Okay. I would like to add a few comments on the TIF, please. Councilman Davis, as I have studied this TIF and learned about it, I really appreciate the fact that you have had the number of community meetings that you have hosted, and I'm thankful I was able to attend one. To my knowledge, I think you met with Friends of Hickson and then hosted 2 additional events. And I know other colleagues attended those as well, because I think as a body, we're really trying to understand the will of the people of Hickson, because this is not a CBL TIF as much as it is an economic development opportunity for an entire region of our community. And I know for me, each time we do one of these, you know, we spend a great deal of time as a council thinking through the Bend TIF, you know, and how that would potentially reinvigorate the west side. And I think we're who knows what we're going to see coming out of other portions of our community. And each one we learn from, and I think each one we try to do a little better than the next. So I thank you so much for your collaborative spirit. And I will say because this is an infrastructure only, to me, I see a different level of risk because we don't know what's coming out of the ground. And when I've talked to people in my own district, because we've had a lot of neighborhood association meetings lately, people are really chattering about this in my district because we're in proximity to Northgate Mall. It's a primary shopping area for our district. And it's fascinating how much as people draw sort of, here's my vision for what I'd love to see, how much overlap there is. And so I really appreciate the idea of having a resolution that formalizes what the architects have said about charrettes or what a developer has said about green space, but to really give clear direction from this council and specifically from the people of District 3 about here's where we want to head and what the expectation is. If we're going to go in as a community of taxpayers, this is what we want to get out of it on the other end. So thank you for that. And Sharita and your team, as always, I thank you for the amount of feedback that you give us, the way that we ask a lot of questions because it's our job and you know that, and your team rises to the occasion. So thank you very much in helping us advocate for good deals for the people of Chattanooga. Okay, council, moving on. We have a couple of other resolutions on the agenda. Under economic development. And then we have items under the city attorney. There is an item here that I know we've had some questions on. Item E, I'd like to invite a member of LDO to speak to this item, the resolution withdrawing Preserve Chattanooga's application at the applicant's request. Please introduce yourself if you could.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Cassie Klein. I'm the Historic Preservation Planner in the Land Development Office. So I'm going to give you some context on this application. Basically, case HLM 23-1 for a local landmark designation for Wyatt Hall at 865 East 3rd Street went before the Historic Zoning Commission for review in 2023, and the commission recommended approval for that landmark designation. The application was then to come before you all at City Council, but it did not get added onto an agenda based on feedback from Hamilton County Schools legal staff and city legal staff related to an Attorney General opinion that states that city ordinances cannot regulate county government buildings, including schools. So the interpretation from our city legal staff stated that the landmark designation could technically be added to this building, but it would essentially be ineffective as long as the property owner is Hamilton County Schools. So this application, just to note, was made prior to me beginning in this role. And so between that transition and the clarification needed for the legality of the designation, it has just remained in limbo. We've been actively working on cleaning up any outstanding applications and permits in our system, which has led to us moving to resolve this outstanding permit with the applicant. I also want to note that since this application is still outstanding, there is technically a moratorium on any permits that would be pulled on this building per section 1021 of the Historic Zoning Ordinance. So based on all of this information, the applicant is now requesting to withdraw their application. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have. And the applicant has also requested an opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, why don't we go ahead and get the applicant up just to clarify. So what I heard you say is the applicant has decided to rescind the application.
Yes.
And we're just clearing it. This vote would be to clear that out of the system at the request of the applicant.
Correct.
Okay. I think your applicant is here. I believe this is Todd Morgan.
All right, thank you. I'm Todd Morgan, the Executive Director of Preserve Chattanooga. And when I first came to Chattanooga, I was so excited that we had local historic landmark ordinance in the books because that's very progressive. So congratulations to Chattanooga for thinking about that. We were approached by alumni from CSAS to apply for local landmark designation. They had about 8,100 signatures in support. And they also raised the money to pay for producing the application and submitting it to the Historic Zoning Commission. As we've gone through a little bit of time and we've learned that there are issues with the school board actually having to be accountable to the regulations under LHL, we feel like it's not a good use of this designation at this point in time. This is such a good tool for the community to have. We don't want to set a precedent on putting it on our property that the property owner does not have to abide by.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Elliott, did you hit your light for this item, or I might be getting a little mixed up with my board?
No, it was, but we have another item.
Okay.
For
all right,
under
so-
resolutions,
all right,
but
I've
I can
got- I've got a
wait.
couple folks.
I
queued
can
for
wait,
this
so
one.
we're fine.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Todd, thank you so much for your work on this. And as a proud graduate of Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences, I'll be honest with you, this is of great concern of mine, that the application is being withdrawn. I was one of those 81,000 signatures. My family, nieces, nephews still attend that school. And my concern is that although the city is no longer in the education business and the county is responsible for the issues dealing with regulations, and I'm assuming that is with the historic register, is that correct?
It's, if you're a local
I'm sorry,
historic,
and that microphone is low and I cannot hear up here. Thank you.
is this a little bit better?
Yeah, I think it needs to be raised just a bit. Okay, go ahead, proceed.
With local historic landmark designation, it falls under the Chattanooga Historic Zoning Commission.
Okay.
And so we've just had those guidelines updated, but in essence, they would have to follow the Secretary of Interior standards for how to treat that property. So if they were replacing windows or doing work on the brick or something significant to the exterior, there are specific recommendations for how to do that properly on an old building.
And you and I have met extensively. I'm interested in historic preservation, especially my school, and that just not CSAS, has been multiple schools, including our wonderful chair is also an alumni of that school as well. Ooh, go Patriots. But other than the school itself, right, we're talking about historic preservation. There's other buildings that we have seen go by the wayside in Chattanooga, not to beat a dead horse, but this is of grave concern of mine. When we withdraw applications, and what I'm hearing, and I don't know if this should come by form of resolution, I know we don't have any enforcement, I think was what I heard. Are you an attorney?
No, I'm a
Okay.
planner.
A planner, okay. So what I heard in the interpretation of the law is that we don't have jurisdiction because we don't own the building, and if not, what has the conversation been with the school system and their plans for Chattanooga School for the Arts and Sciences?
Yeah, so they were opposed to this designation because they don't want to have to be held subject to the Secretary of Interior standards. Those can increase expenses because they're a higher level of taking care of a property than just sort of patching things as you go along. But because of that, they were pretty adamantly opposed, at least the superintendent and also the school's attorney, the school system's attorney.
But did they specify any specific regulations from the Department of the Interior?
No, they didn't specify any regulations, but the consensus is from, that the land itself is more valuable than the school building, which I disagree with, being in my profession. And I would like to point out that this LHL application focused on R.H. Hunt's Wyatt Hall. Doesn't mean the site can't be redeveloped, as far as the football field or the old gym. Doesn't mean that it's not a great adaptive reuse project. It'd be wonderful for residential at some point. I've seen so many successful projects like that. So we would like to see this property protected long-term because it's such a signature building in this community. And you'll see me again talking about LHLs, especially as we move into the preservation plan next year. I want to be sure that everyone on council has a chance to provide input on that, and that you understand what that ordinance is and how it can be used to help protect significant places in the city.
Madam Chair, I want to enter to the record that I plan to introduce a resolution sent over to the Hamilton County School Board and the superintendent that we plan to preserve that building and that we would like plans to understand what their usage is for that as it relates to historic preservation.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Harvey, or is this about this?
It is, yes.
All right,
Thank
go
you, Madam
ahead,
Chair. I too have great respect for our architecture here in town, our historic buildings. R.H. Hunt, extremely well-known here in our town and responsible for a lot of our buildings, including this one, the old City High School and now CSAS. So I just want to piggyback off of what Councilman Clark was saying, and you don't have to answer this now, but something I would ask that you look into is can the county commission or the school board basically do what we've been asked here is to adopt some sort of historical, preservation landmark on their behalf, since they are the ones that indeed own the property. So perhaps that's something that they can look at and vote on, and I hope that they would consider, because one thing I have conversations even with the mayor is, we are the scenic city because of what we're surrounded with, not only our natural beauty, but our architecture.
That's right.
And we don't want to lose that. And so I know my grandparents passed by City High School on their way to Central. And so, it's something that we don't want to lose, or at least we can repurpose and still maintain. So I would ask you to ask them if there's anything that they can do to preserve it on their behalf.
Sure. It would be up to them to set an internal standard for how they care for that property. If you want to get into actually making it enforceable from a city perspective, it would have to have that LHL designation, or they would have to be willing to donate an easement, a preservation easement to an organization like ours, which would be then responsible for enforcing those guidelines being used correctly.
Okay, all right. Thank you for what you do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassie. Yeah. Okay, council, do we have any questions on other resolutions? Items F through M. Councilman Elliott.
Yes, ma'am. I will be looking to make a motion to defer item D under economic development for 1 week.
Item D.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, then I will not do those as a package.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It is item D under economic development. 1 week, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. All right, any other notes on resolutions, council? Okay. All right, seeing none, let's take a look at our purchases for this evening. Hit your light if you have any questions about purchases. Okay. Looks like we're good.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Uh-huh. Councilman Clark.
Don't be upset at me, but I think I might need to backtrack to resolutions. If that's
Okay.
permissible. Or is it on no? I see it. It's under Public Works.
Public Works Resolution. Okay, council, do we have any questions on purchases? It looks like we do not. So I'm going to go ahead and close out that portion of our planning. Okay, so
My apologies, Madam Chair. I have a question about the resolution, Public Works H with the Alton Park connector phase in the amount of 1.6 million. And just as a point of clarity, I don't know who's coming forward. Hi. My question is, with the connector, does this involve some of the work that would be done to connect, I think it was a bikeways, or explain a little bit to me about if this is in conjunction to the repair issues that were happening as it relates to where the park is going? Is it the same thing? Someone?
do you mean
Rakita,
where,
am I-
do you mean
am I
where right
phrasing
now
that
there's a,
correct?
where there's a detour?
Yes.
I think that's related to the stadium.
And this is, just to be sure, this is item H about Alton Park Greenway?
That is correct. Well, it says Alton Park Connector Phase 1,
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
which would be the Greenway.
Right, so Bill Payne's city engineer in the Public Works Department. So this project is for a section to add some greenway and some sidewalks along West 33rd.
Gotcha.
So from the section that's between St. Elmo Avenue over to DeLong Street. So all of this would be work within existing right-of-way. It will connect to some work that's been done by one of the recent developments that's in that area. So this makes a connection that eventually we'll be able, in future phases, would continue to go towards the east. But it's just part of that planned project. Eventually, that portion that runs north and south, there was mention of the stadium, that portion that runs north and south along through that portion will be reopened once the work immediately adjacent to the stadium.
In conjunction with the state, this is a portion north or south of where the stadium is happening?
It ties into that portion.
Okay.
But this is separate from that. So this is to extend a connector greenway that runs to the east. Ultimately, it runs and through all of the phases, and there's multiple phases with different types of funding sources.
Gotcha.
That would ultimately go all the way over towards East Lake and Crabtree in those future phases if they're all able to come to fruition. But this first section would only go from St. Elmo.
Are there any of those funding sources coming from any of the finances dealing with the construction of the stadium?
No, sir.
For this
Neither this piece nor the other are related to the stadium. That stadium infrastructure is for the extension of West 26th Street and the relocation of the Riverwalk immediately adjacent to the stadium.
I thought this may have been connected to some issues we had regarding a bike way that was obstructed, where we were hearing people concerned about not rerouting it. Is that not in connection to this? Okay, gotcha. I just want to make sure. And how many miles is this?
I didn't measure it in miles. It's basically about 6 blocks.
Gotcha.
So it's less than a mile in total.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Certainly.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. It's an exciting one to get moving on. Okay, council, let's take a look at our 2-week agenda, please. We do have a scheduled public hearing for a request for de-annexation. Do we need to have an attorney-client?
Yes, briefly on that.
Okay, we will have an attorney-client meeting, council, during our recess. All right, hit your light. We won't talk about the final reading. Hit your light if you have any questions about first reading. I would like to invite Stan Sewell up from the Office of Internal Audit to give us some background on the internal audit items that are on this agenda.
Stan Sewell, City Auditor. Nice to see you all. Didn't particularly have anything special prepared for this, but generally what we're looking at is you have 2 ordinances and a resolution that really, back in 2012, when there was a charter amendment, these issues came before or went to, I think, a committee of the council back after that in 2012, and they just never made it for action. And so they're kind of like 13 years behind. And all it really does, it gets the city code and the resolution in line with the language that's in the charter. For instance, if you look at the easiest thing would be the resolution. If you have a red line, I don't know if Phil provided you guys with that or not. If you have a red line of it, all you see is it just changes titles. So instead of personnel administrator, it says Chief Human Resources Officer, and then we go to Chief Information Officer and then City Auditor instead of Director of Audit. So just terminology changes, I think, is all you've seen there. The whistleblower ordinance, it is literally practically the same whistleblower ordinance that currently exists. It's just getting terminology. Again, I think if you look at a red line, you'll see probably we were using personnel administrator back then, and now it's Chief Human Resources Officer, and we use City Auditor instead of Director of Audit. And then the one other ordinance is there was the audit committee created that was in the city code in the ordinance, and when the charter referendum took place, it replaced that. And so more or less, you end up in a situation where that entire article of the city code could have or should have maybe, after the charter transferred everything from the city code to the charter, you would look at it as the majority of that is being deleted because that appointment process for audit committee and everything else that was in the city code, it moved over to the charter. But there were a couple of provisions in there, like one about subversion of the audit process that, and I believe.
Communications.
One other issue, what was it?
Communications.
Yeah, just communication, that ensuring that communication, is there for instance, just basically it provides that, if there were some critical issue that the audit committee became aware of or the Office of Internal Audit, we're going to come before this council and let you guys know about it, right? Some major problematic issue. And that's really all that's left in there. There was one other section, I think, that's modified due to some terminology changes that occurred in terms of like a management analyst that actually ended up being eliminated in 2016, I believe, by the council.
Okay. Thank you, Stan. So, council, we do have red lines available from the city attorney in our email.
Yes.
And so you can take a look at those in preparation for the vote next week. We have a question from Councilman Elliott.
Quick question, Stan. What do y'all define as critical issues? How do y'all determine what gets rolled up and what doesn't?
Yeah, it's a bit subjective, but it's kind of like you know it when you see it. In general, if we have some issue that comes up, and we're obligated to investigate things, right? Like, and the audit committee oversees the fraud, waste, and abuse prevention program. So if something critical came up that was important, we're generally going to do an investigation. We're going to get that report where it needs to go. If there are issues, all our reports, our audit reports are always communicated to the council, so those things come up. For something to occur, I don't think historically I've ever been aware of anything that came up that was so critical. It was like, it's Monday and I need to come to this Tuesday's council meeting to tell the council. Defining that specifically, it would be very difficult to do. It's very subjective. It's, like I said, probably more like, I just know it when I saw it and know that I needed to get in front of you guys and let you know it. And to be quite honest, something like that would probably be something where we knew administration was imminently about to do something that was just, we felt like, was not good, and the governing body needed to be aware of it.
Okay, one question. Do you guys have certain things that you have to report to the comptroller's office?
Absolutely.
Do you report everything, or just certain elevated issues?
All of our audit reports that always go to the council, always go to the mayor, we always copy the comptroller's office on audit reports. And those are different than things when we do an investigation or a review. With those issues, if we find, anytime we find there's a state law and it actually applies to you all and every city employee the same as it does to me and to the employees in the Office of Internal Audit, there's a state law that says if you become aware of any criminal activity, fraudulent activity, and they name a few other things like violations of law or what have you, you are obligated as a public official, and the state defines a public official as any city employee, you're obligated to report that to the comptroller's office in the state of Tennessee. I have communicated with them in the past, and there's a clear understanding there. It doesn't mean every employee of the city has to report everything. So if we find something, we're going to report it. And so if we report it to you as a council or to the mayor or to whomever, or to both of you, that is, say, a violation of law, when I report that to you, I've also already reported it to the comptroller. I'm reporting it to them right after I report it to you. So you know it's been reported to the comptroller.
And do you guys report, when you report to the comptroller, are you guys sending those violations to us as well?
It depends. If we find it in an audit, you're going to have it. If it's like
a report or something like that?
So let's say.
This may help you.
Yeah.
Can you start sending those to us?
Absolutely.
As well? Can you start sending those to us?
If this council says, and you may recall, so I do, every 4 years, I do a little session with you guys, so every one of you has sat in on me. And in every one of those, I've always asked, I've explained the way we do reporting. The audit reports always go to the council and mayor. The post-audit reviews always go to the council and the mayor. Other issues get reported to where they need to go for the appropriate action to be taken. So a lot of times we might see something, maybe it's indicative of somebody has stolen, pocketed some cash, whatever it might be, stole some gift cards. Yeah. Okay. We're generally going to get that to Human Resources, the Chief Human Resources Officer. I'm going to copy maybe the Chief Operating Officer and the department head who's over that. And then they're going to go take the disciplinary action to deal with that. Where I would feel an obligation to bring it to the council might be as if they just ignored it. Mm-hmm. But if you guys, like I've mentioned, always have in those sessions that I've done, I go over that process and I say, are you guys comfortable the way we do this? And the answer has always been yes. Like, I said, do you want to change that? Because it can be. If this council wants me to send everything to it.
Oh, no, not everything.
Yeah.
Don't send everything.
You just want to know if we send something to the comptroller.
Yes.
We find
send
something like
to the comptroller.
Absolutely. I can put that in our formal written, documented procedures.
Okay.
If that happens, it can be in our template. And if you're asking for that right now, I will do it.
Okay, perfect. That's perfect, sir.
So no one else objects to doing that, I guess, right? Like, having information is not bad, but you don't want to be overloaded.
No, we don't need everything. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Okay, it looks like we're all good. Thank you very much, Stan. I appreciate the work you do and your clarification on those items. All right, council, we will talk about the planning items in planning, which brings us to economic development items. If you have any other questions about these, please go ahead and hit your light. This is in our 2-week agenda. We will be having a legislative committee, at which point we will be discussing the carriage horse ordinance that Councilman Henderson has been working on. And also the Air Pollution Control Board has some changes that they would like us to consider as well. All right, looks like we are all set. So I'd like to hand the chair over to Chairwoman Burrs for Planning and Zoning. Oh, we didn't do future considerations. Dadgummit. This is what happens when we take a week off. I apologize, everybody. Sorry, Jenny. Okay. But wait, there's more. Okay. Future considerations. If you've got any questions on future considerations, please hit your light. I would like to draw the council's attention to item 10A, which is under Parks, and it is a request to accept funds from the State of Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Local Parks Acquisition Fund to purchase the Mountain Creek Quarry for use as a park. I think that's a huge win for the people of Chattanooga. Just terrific. So congratulations. That's in District 1, is it not? Wonderful. All right, looks like, okay, I sat up, I stood up, I sat down, and we're back to planning and zoning. Okay, I'm really going this time.
Thanks. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order today's Planning and Zoning committee meeting. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from our November meeting?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to proceed with today's agenda, and as Karen makes her way up here, you all should have received the proposed agenda in your packet. Chairwoman Hill, I know you mentioned a couple weeks ago that you did want to hear a presentation on both of the items in District 2. Are there any items that are not highlighted in other districts that you all would like to hear about? So Councilman Clark, you'd like to hear, looks like you've got 1 and 2 in District 5.
Council
3 in District 1.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What did you ask me? Ones
So-
I do not want to hear?
Well, so typically, we ask Karen to go over the items that are highlighted because those have some sort of opposition or there was some additional conversation. The ones that are not highlighted, no opposition, they were approved by the Planning Commission. So if there's an item that is not highlighted that you would like to hear about that's in your
Gotcha, thank you.
district.
There is one, mostly the ones dealing with Stone Creek Consulting. I'm trying to see what it is. There is, there's item 0165.
Okay,
And Karen, there's the one that is being withdrawn, I'd like to make public comments on.
Yes, sir.
Then there's also a zoning case that's not on here that's going to Planning Commission in December that I'd like to also make public comments on as well.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
And then we have some items on first reading today that are on today's agenda. Those are 3 items that have been discussed at some time previously over the last month. But since we've got Karen up here, is there anything that's going to be voted on first reading today that anybody has any additional questions about?
I'm going to defer my two again.
Okay, all right. And then we'll be going over the items that are on for December 9th.
And Chairwoman Hill, the item that Councilman Clark just mentioned is 2025-0124, Stone Creek Consulting for Murray Hills Drive. They have requested to withdraw that case, and that was the one that was just mentioned. That's item B on the agenda for tonight under first reading.
Okay. Okay, and then Vice Chair Knoll, item C and item D, you're going to defer? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So nothing else to discuss from today's agenda. All right. So moving forward, let's start with item D, 0147.
Okay. So this case is at 915 Barton Avenue. It's a request to rezone from RN2 Residential Neighborhood Zone to the CN Neighborhood Commercial Zone. And the request was for a mixed-use building including personal services, retail, and residential. And this is to help orient. This is on Barton Avenue, just at the turn, with Hickson Pike across from Riverview Park. And so the general zoning pattern is the areas, the properties that front on Hanover Street, and that is to the back of this property. There's zone commercial, and then there's a line of these 4 properties that front on Barton. They're zone residential. And so 921 Barton Avenue is just east of the site. It was rezoned to UGC with conditions in 2019. And I believe that we have the conditions wrong in the staff report. So I'm going to read those just to help you kind of orient to development in the area. There are 4 conditions for that property: audit-oriented uses, hospitals, self-service, storage facilities, motel, hotel, billboards, miniature golf, outdoor amusement, adult-oriented establishments, open-air markets are prohibited. There's a few other uses, but that's kind of the catch-all. Building height limited to 2.5 stories or 35 feet. Retain the existing structure and no dumpsters located within 30 feet of any residential zone or use. And so that is the Barton Avenue to the east. And then the Hanover Street was rezoned to UGC, and it has very similar conditions. And so while there is a series of zoning in that area, commercial zoning, the most recent history has placed conditions on those uses. So the site's located as part of a neighborhood node, a mix of land uses. There's some commercial, a restaurant, bar, office, park, residential uses. So the request for that neighborhood commercial type use is those uses can be compatible with adjacent land uses. But the CN zone permits 9 residential uses such as liquor stores, lodges, retail, goods, establishments, outdoor sales and displays, animal care facilities, and funeral homes that may not be compatible. And Chairwoman Hill just mentioned trying to understand the staff, the recommendation before you. So I printed out a handout. And this is just the difference between the CN zone and the CNT zone. So the applicant requested the CN commercial zone, and staff, because of concerns about the uses allowed in that zone, because this is across from residential property. So as you head a little bit down the block to the east and turn that corner, you've got commercial uses against either the park or commercial uses. Here, you're starting to transition to the residential uses across Barton Avenue. So staff had some concerns about that. But staff noted that the CN and CNT zones both have maximum gross floor area square footage requirements to limit massing of the buildings and help keep the form compatible, and that helps with the compatibility of both zones. So staff recommended denying the CN neighborhood commercial zone and approving the CNT neighborhood transition zone. And I did a comparison. They're pretty similar. The C in neighborhood commercial zone, as you can tell from the rundown of allowable uses, is a little bit more permissive. And so staff recommended denying the CN, approving the CNT because the list of permitted uses is less. And so discussion at November Planning Commission, the applicant is, I believe the existing use that that the applicant does is like a tailoring business, a seamstress business. And so that fell under the personal service category that is allowed in the C&T zone, but the applicant was interested in perhaps additional uses. I believe that coffee shop was specifically mentioned. So Planning Commission asked staff to develop possible conditions for the C&T zone. And so, for the CN zone. So it's more intense, so opening up the door to some potential uses, but still noting it's in a transition area. So staff developed the 4 proposed conditions on the slide. So of all the uses in the CN zone, residential, office, personal service, retail, and eating and drinking establishments with fewer than 50 streets with no drive-in or curb service would be allowable uses. Limiting the hours of operation, no dumpster and no grease trap shall be permitted. Because the applicant mentioned a coffee shop, it did not mention a full-scale restaurant. This was intended to kind of keep that a little bit less intense, and then retain existing structure except for construction needed for repairs and ADA compliance. That is so there would not be, that residential structure wouldn't be torn down, and then a full commercial building built. So at that time, Planning Commission did find those conditions acceptable and is recommending the CN zone subject to the following conditions. And the applicant did acknowledge them and did not comment that there were any concerns about the conditions. So it's intended to open the door, to have some neighborhood commercial uses, but then with the limitations in place here.
Feedback, but this is an interesting area because, I'm sorry, I was not acknowledged.
You're okay. I just turned your microphone on, so you are good to go.
Thank you. No, y'all, you think I've never been here before.
We're rolling with it.
So this neighborhood, this area, contiguous area, has undergone a really lovely organic shift toward neighborhood commercial. And within the draft of Plan Chattanooga, it is intended to be a small neighborhood commercial node. And I think that residents really appreciate this walkable commercial area. So when I see these limitations, I wonder just a smidge, because it is right next door to a restaurant that I don't believe has to close at 8 o'clock. And the dumpster and grease trap, again, I don't know what the conditions are on that restaurant, but help me understand why we would want to preclude this site from becoming a restaurant 5 years from now.
So I think that based on the discussion with the applicant at Planning Commission, which the applicant had one proposed use, which was to continue and to have a residential use. I think because the other identified use was the coffee shop, the conditions are drafted to that. The retail eating, the eating and drinking establishment with fewer than 50 seats would allow a restaurant. But yes, the hours of operation we're intending, to reflect that you're getting closer to the residential properties across the street. So the property at the end of the block that has the commercial sign, that is, let's see if we can go out a little bit. You're closer to Riverview Park. You've got, I guess it's the Vine Street Bakery across the street, and then you have those large backyards of the residential property. On this, you're starting to transition to be a little bit closer to the residential across the street. And so that is why this set of conditions is a little bit more restrictive, because the applicant did not have an identified use that's other than wanting to do something, and because we're starting to set for these 4 properties along Barton, and then the one as you turn the corner onto Hickson Pike, it was to just kind of start a little bit lesser of a transition because of those properties across, the residential properties across the street.
Okay, all right, thank you for sharing that rationale. I appreciate it. I'll give it some thought.
And I think that when doing just in the presentation, I think it would be helpful for me to share with you the language in the zoning ordinance that limits the size of the retail business, and that might help your decision too. I will share that.
Okay, thank you. That'd be awesome.
All right. Any other questions about item D, 0147?
Okay, the next item this case did have opposition, is a rezoning from RN1 6 and IH heavy industrial zone to the RN13 residential neighborhood zone. And this property is at 1300 and 1335 Mercer Street. And the proposal is to do single unit detached residential. And so just as a reminder, the RN13 residential neighborhood zone is a single unit residential zone. Detached residential zone allows lot sizes as small as 3,000 square feet. And it doesn't allow ADUs, just as noted, is for just single-family residential detached uses as its primary use. Just note the pattern too is let me help orient here. Lupton Mills Meadow is shown on the slide. The industrial zone property is just to the north of there, and then across Mercer Street, you have the residential zone property. So you have the 2 zones requested to both go to RN13. There have been a series of rezoning applications over time for these 2 properties. They've been bundled together. There's a 2018 and then 2 cases in 2019. All cases were withdrawn at some point in the rezoning process. So again, this is Lupton City's primarily single unit residential. Lupton Mills Meadow is shown there. And then across the railroad track is Riverton under construction. So the site plan is showing the single family or single unit detached lots. And then you can see the configuration as it heads kind of northwest across Mercer Street. So staff spent some time looking at lot sizes. Most of the lot sizes on Mercer Street, north of 1300 Mercer Street property, are approximately 3,400 to 5,000 square feet. The setbacks are as small as 0 feet on the side setbacks for some dwellings and as large as 66 feet for the rear setback. But again, staff is thinking about that RN13 and that possibility for a 3,000 square foot minimum lot size, and just noting that there are smaller lots prevalent in the area. And then the lots north of the Whitney Street side of the property that range from 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. There are larger lots south of the site in other areas of the Lupton City neighborhood. And then one of the comments in opposition was just the lot configuration and how those lots are configured versus the lot configuration in the lot pattern already set in Lupton City. So the primary use in the area is single-family detached residential. The proposed uses can be more compatible with the existing residential neighborhood, particularly that vacant manufacturing zone. The Hickson North River Plan recommends low-density residential for the area. The request for smaller lots, single-unit detached homes is compatible with land use goal, and that many of the single-unit detached dwellings in the area are historic lots of record with varying lots widths and setbacks, some of which are non-conforming with the current RN16 zone regulations. Some of the discussion at Planning Commission was it's zoned RN16, why when there's smaller lots already in place? And we just noted it was all R1 with the new zoning ordinance, RN15 in the urban area, RN16 for much of the area outside that urban zone. So they were just noting it already seems non-conforming. There was opposition present at Planning Commission. Staff, note that staff had previously denied similar requests. We talked about those 3 other cases earlier that were withdrawn. Concerns about traffic, on-street parking, keeping curb cuts to minimum, and is not consistent with the neighborhood pattern. Staff found that the request is compatible with the plan, urban form, and adjacent land uses, and recommends approval.
Chairwoman Hill.
Thank you very much. I do think that this neighborhood is a prime candidate for an R13 designation. It is made slightly more complex because it is this neighborhood is, I believe, the first planned community in the United States. And the community is looking, they are working with staff to pursue a historic designation for the community. The developers have, and so I think the biggest concern that we have at this point is the height of the units. The vernacular homes throughout Lupton City are 1-story and 1.5-story units. And the community is okay with that. They understand that just side setbacks are going to be different now than they were then, but it is really interesting to note that we have homes in Lupton City with a 0-foot side setback. We also have those with a 0-foot back setback on the alley. It's pretty wild. It's a really neat community. All that to say, I've been talking with the applicant's builder, and I do expect, Madam Chair, that we will defer this possibly for as many as 2 months. Because they're just, the developer has provided a sketch that was 1-story, but apparently they got a little lines crossed, and the 1-story that the community was like, okay, yeah, we can get behind that. Then they're like, wait a second, we don't think we can, the numbers might not work on that. So don't show me something that we can get excited about if we can't really do it.
Yeah.
So we'll see where this one heads, but it'll be delayed for sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about 0168? Seeing no other lights, move on to the next item. Let's go with 0165.
Okay. This is a request to rezone 4115 Shallowford Road, an unaddressed property in the 4100 and 4200 blocks of Shallowford Road from RN16 Residential Neighborhood Zone and CC Commercial Corridor Zone to the IL Industrial Light Zone for a warehouse and laydown yard. And so there are 2 properties here shown on the screen highlighted in red. They are not contiguous, but both of those are part of the same request. There's no recent zoning history for the site. The M3 zone, there was property zone M3 in 2012, and that had a condition subject to no access to Aguila, which is the street on the left that starting to curve west, and that goes into a residential neighborhood. And so the property that's currently on Shallowford Road is the CC Commercial Corridor Zone. That's the old C2 zone. And then the property to the larger property is the RN16 Residential Neighborhood Zone. The site is on Shallowford Road, right at Northmore Road. That's the the road coming up from the south. The surrounding development form is consistent with suburban, commercial, and industrial corridor. Aguila Drive is to the west, as mentioned, and much of this portion of Shallowford Road has undeveloped areas due to the proximity of South Chickamauga Creek and the floodway or flood zone. This is a flood map of the area. The property in its entirety, the 2 properties in its entirety are either in the floodway or flood zone. And so the applicant site plan showed, again, we have the two different properties, same project, the property on Shallowford Road, and then the laydown yard, the proposed laydown yard is highlighted there on the screen. It's a smaller portion of the larger lot. So staff noted the site surrounded by commercial uses and vacant land. There's that residential development to the west. North Brainerd Plan recommends a medium business mix for the north, for that front portion on Shallowford Road and single-family residential for the rear portion. But staff noted the majority of that site's in the 100-year floodplain or the floodway, and just noted that placing homes in the floodway, close proximity to the floodway or in, puts occupants and property at the risk of damage and loss from flooding. So the applicant's proposal for a laydown yard with no structures appears to be a more appropriate land use to limit impacts to adjacent residential property in the South Chick watershed. So staff recommended denying the applicant's request and we're approving a reduced area. So instead of the requested area, which includes the yellow and blue, just the areas in blue, which are the property on Shallowford and that portion that's just the laydown yard. That comes with conditions, recommended conditions, office, warehouse, and laydown yard use only, maximum building height of 45 feet, and a 6-foot-tall side obscuring fence shall be installed around the perimeter of the aisle zone portion unless determined through permitting that the fence would impede floodplain function. So the idea is to, because there is residential uses to the west, to screen the laydown yard unless it's determined that with stormwater that doesn't work for the floodway. So again, just a smaller portion, just the laydown yard. Planning Commission found that was reasonable and comes to the same recommendation to you.
Chairwoman Hill, did you have, or was that from the last? Okay. Chairman Clark.
Thank you. I like Chairman Clark.
I mean, sorry, Councilman Clark. You're a chairman at some
I'm a
point,
chairman
yeah.
at some point.
Sorry, yeah,
Not
apologies.
not until next year. I'm sure Cedric Hinton would be very glad we're not having community development until next year, which I will resume chairman. Karen, I'd like to go back, because there's been a lot of conversation about this zoning stuff, and I need to bring some clarity to this. Unfortunately, I was out of the country for 14 days, and when you're away, that's when the little messy stuff kind of gets in the way of things. So I want to bring some things to clarity for the public. One, dealing with this from our discussion on November 6th when we met with Stone Creek Consulting. Can you explain for the public that for the rezone in the blue is for light industrial, and what are the applicant's plan for that site?
So I believe the applicant expressed that there is it is a development that property owner owns, I believe, all the properties shown on the site plan, including multiple properties that front on Shallowford Road. And I believe the applicant was talking about like a corporate headquarters or corporate warehouse headquarters would be moved here. So redevelopment of not just those two properties, but the site in general. And I believe he used something similar to that terminology.
So for the industrial light zone, does that include any heavy machinery in and out of that property?
So right now, the only the only uses are office, warehouse, and laydown yard. But I do believe that the laydown yard would be accessed by trucks associated with going in and related to contractor uses.
And can you explain what laydown yard is?
Yeah, so my understanding is that is kind of like a contractor storage yard where that's where they would be storing materials they would be using. I don't believe any structure, but storage of materials that are involved in their process.
But the Planning Commission's recommendation was not to approve the industrial heavy zone?
It's to improve the zone, and I'm sorry, yes, it does, it's a typo there because it has industrial heavy, but it is the IH. Let me double check that. Thank you for flagging that. There is a typo. Let me make sure. It is the...
And then I want to talk about the North Brainerd plan once you...
It is the IL Industrial Light Zone.
Okay.
And so to allow those uses only, but that doesn't preclude trucks that would be associated with that use from accessing the site onto Shallowford.
And maybe we could talk about conditions. I know there was a concern regarding, because just up the way where Vulcan is, there's concern where our adjacent districts are, Madam Chair, where the trucks entering into Shallowford, right? In that particular area, I've got a school zone. I've got two school zones. I've got high density and residential right there in the Indian Hills area. And so our concern was regarding if it was light industrial, heavy industrial, what does, specifically considering the nature of this company's business, what type of impact would that have on the residential area? And for that, I have concern. And I don't know if that could be clear, if that could be specified in any conditions, but I'd like more information before proceeding with this. Do you have any information on that? I'm sorry.
Yes, and I should clarify that it is for IH. I'm sorry, I checked the resolution.
Okay, so it is for IH.
And,
Okay.
and conditions usually are applied to the property that is in the process of zoning. So if happy to talk to you about conditions, and
Okay.
if it's particularly off of access or concern about where Northmore is, it would apply to that, particularly that southern portion.
Gotcha.
And we are happy to help draft conditions.
So the blue parcel that's on Shallowford, right?
Yes,
That is also rezoned, the request for rezoning for light or
heavy industrial,
Heavy
yes.
industrial.
And those conditions would apply to it also.
but we don't have any information on what they will put on the road facing Shallowford.
So,
Regarding the use,
I mean, yes. Well, it's not connected to the rest of the property.
that's right. And I
It's on
think,
Shallowford, so my question is that what is the intended use if it's not connected and we're talking about industrial? So I'd like more clarity on that, but for the record, I'm not 100% in favor of this until there's clarity about what industrial impact. It's in the middle of a residential area, and 2 parcels down, there's Eastwood senior housing. And I have a middle school across the street,
Right.
and an empty Walmart, which I'm still upset about. But we need to be cautious about the property in that area, and I've mentioned this to our economist, Sharita, that when we have large parcels in the middle of urban centers, especially in District 5, and when we're considering business and development districts and zoning, God's not making any more dirt. So I got to be very cautious about what industrial means in this residential area. And because it's not clear, I want to be very precise on the record that I have some issues with this case until there's clarity. Okay?
and I can ask the applicant to provide information for overall site, most specifically that project on the property on Shallowford, and then kind of what their transportation looks like, or vehicle access looks like on the site.
Chairwoman Burrs, we are conjoining districts. Were you about to add something
no,
to
I
that
just
conversation?
is Alan Jones the applicant?
He is.
Okay, have you
We
connected
have,
with
we
Alan
have
Jones?
a meeting on November
Okay.
6th. He represents the owner, correct? So we've had conversations, I think if I recall, and I apologize, I'm still reconnecting. There are plans, there were some questions regarding the usage. Because if I'm not mistaken, the parcels that are to the right are also owned by the applicant.
That's correct.
And there aren't any plans for development, which I was concerned about. I'm like, there's a big blue dot, but you own all the parcels on each side, and I don't know what you're about to put on the main road in Shallowford. And that's very important to me. So I need more clarity on that.
So Mr. Jones is here today.
Oh,
Could you
is he?
connect
Hey,
with him
oh,
at the
you're-
break?
You're in the cut high,
Yeah.
we're talking about you.
Yeah,
To the
can-
podium.
Yeah, can you all, well, I think just for this particular meeting, it's just an education, but
Sure.
if you can connect with him at the break, so you all can set a time to meet.
I don't need to connect,
or
I just
talk,
need you to
yeah.
get those, we've had a meeting about this, I just need to put this on the record. Karen, is there anything else on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Also, Chairwoman Burns, I want to talk about the neighborhood Indian Hills, which is adjacent to this. I know there was some misinformation that was sent out to the community on Agawilla regarding an apartment complex. Fortunately, I was away out of the country and could not respond, and it was Thanksgiving. But there was information disseminated that there was an apartment complex with 79 units. And I just want to be for the record, because that was also discussed in our meeting, that I also had issue with that we are waiting on some revisions from Alan to get back to go to the community. But can you give clarity, and if you can remember what that case is, and it's on the map.
It is.
And it's also, for the record, I want to say that it's also the same, is it the same owner? Okay, two separate things, but that's an impacted area, and that's going to be coming to the Planning Commission in December. But I want to put to rest some misconceptions that's being spread about that project by some very anxious neighbors. Could you bring some clarity to that, please, briefly?
Yes, the property is, so Shalford Road is kind of making the curve. On the western side, it says vacant land. Just below vacant land, there is a property there's a current zoning request on there to rezone to RN3, which does allow attached housing, including apartments. The request is for, I believe, 79 units. The applicant did provide some conditions related to that. Staff recommendation has gone out. The staff has additional conditions that are recommended to Planning Commission to add to that. I believe right now the proposed conditions for the site include access off of, related to buffering, access, height, massing of structures, so related to the concern about an apartment complex. I believe one of the staff recommended conditions is no more than 4 units in a massed structure.
Townhomes, would that be described as townhomes?
It could be described, yeah, it could take different forms, but it is not a 79-unit building.
Gotcha.
We were trying to describe what is shown on the site plan, and that condition is intending to say you could have 4, you could have 4, you could have 4. It's not 79 in one building.
Gotcha. I just needed a big clarity with that. It's been a hot topic on that particular street because a flyer was disseminated, basically putting the neighborhood in a panic, and I did not have the opportunity to address it because I was not contacted. But I want to let the community know and be rest assured that we meet on a regular, Karen, regarding development things that are compatible, and we have a really great working relationship with developers as we urban plan for a very specific area that needs development, that needs a grocery store, and amongst other things. So we're very particular in District 5 about what is compatible that complements the historic residential fabric of that community, just as with Fort Wood or St. Elmo. District 5 is no different, and I've been on the record with my issues with apartment complexes and different multifamily units in residential areas that do not complement the single-family residential communities that are there, okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Good.
Yes, ma'am, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Any other comments about that case before we move on to the next one, which is also in District 5, 0169?
And this one is a case that also going to IH zone. It's 4272 Bonnie Oaks Drive. The front portion is zoned to commercial zone CC, commercial corridor zone. The back portion is zoned the RN16 residential neighborhood zone. The applicant's proposing landscaping and construction, supply, storage, and sales. The applicant proposed conditions limiting the hours of operation and allowable uses. And I'm going to move through these because this is going to be touched on again. And just to orient, this is the portion of Bonnie Oaks Drive west of 153. The railroad track, it abuts the railroad track right-of-way, and South Chick Creek is just off the map to the west. There's no recent zoning history for the site, but across Bonnie Oaks to the northwest, there was a request to rezone property to M1 manufacturing that's similar to the IH zone. Planning Commission, staff recommended to deny, Planning Commission recommended to deny, manufacturing improved commercial, and then City Council denied that application. The staff found that, so staff recommended denial, and I'll kind of highlight one of the reasons. The applicant's proposed uses of light and general industrial, offices, outdoor storage yards, and places of worship could also be a light industrial, except for one use, which is the general industrial use. And that's defined in the zoning ordinance as the manufacture, fabrication, processing, destruction of any article. I'm going to kind of skim read this. And general industrial uses may produce noise, vibrations, illumination, or particulate that is perceptible to adjacent land users, and staff's concern with the proximity of residential on Chickamauga Avenue was that particular use in general. So staff recommended denial. There was an opposition present at Planning Commission. There was quite a bit of discussion about this case at Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommended approval with the hours of operation limited to between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. in allowable uses. Because of the discussion at Planning Commission where the applicant confirmed the type of use they wanted to do, we had some additional discussion with the applicant after the meeting to note, again, the concern about this general industrial use, heading to council just to be aware that this is a concern. So there are updated conditions provided by the applicant. So this is intending to limit those heavy industrial uses a little bit further to help with that compatibility with that residential development along Chickamauga Avenue. So this is not in the updated conditions, or not in the ordinance we are requesting. They be added. The applicant is here, and this is also their request. So the updated conditions, again, talk about the outdoor storage yard use shall be further limited to storage and sales of landscaping and construction materials. Gets pretty specific there, and notes the typical equipment used in loading and unloading of these materials. This has been reviewed by LDO. They found this to be an enforceable condition. So it would be staff's request to be able to amend the ordinance before council to update that ordinance with these conditions on it. This is more restrictive than what is currently in the ordinance on the December 9th agenda.
Councilman Clark.
The ordinance amendment would require us to act on December 9th?
I believe it could either be added to the ordinance and be reposted in time for the meeting, or it can be done as an amendment, however you would choose.
So you can amend it when it comes on the agenda next week. We can approve it and then propose an amendment.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarity. But
A motion, yeah.
a motion to,
Amend.
okay,
So leave it as is and then follow up with a motion to amend.
next
Next week.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Karen, was the staff recommendation to approve this with the conditions, or?
The staff recommendation was to deny the particular
With the new
concern.
conditions that the applicant added?
Can you say that one more time, please?
You said there were, if you go back to
Yes.
the next screen, you said there were additional, keep going. One more, please. These are the updated conditions.
That's correct.
After the updated conditions, was the staff recommendation still to deny?
We don't provide, this one's a little off-cycle. We don't provide a recommendation. The applicant, with Planning Commission, just was discussing the uses on the site. And so because, with transparency with council in this discussion, just noted that that general industrial use is still out there.
Right.
And so that's what these updated conditions are, limiting that general industrial use to the uses they're proposing. So we don't have a specific recommendation
In the
on this.
recommendations to limit the industrial use in that time frame, is it because of the nature of their business and the noise?
The applicant can speak to it more fully. The first two conditions did come from the applicant, and yes, I believe it is to be a good partner to the neighbors, and that's how they run their business.
And I do, again, similar to what we just discussed on Shallowford, we have a lot of requests to put industrial things in the middle of residential areas. And I don't have a lot of land to develop, but the recommendation is for the South Corridor in the Chattanooga plan, where it says retail and different things that we're trying to do in the Highway 58 area. So I'm concerned, I have some concern about this. I do know that this is a landscaping company. Now, prior to them purchasing, I will tell you what they did do. They upgraded the property, they repainted it, and they screened it in. And I'm satisfied with that because it brings some curb appeal to that Bonnie Oaks area that had not had it before. But I need to be reassured that whatever the nature of their business is, because we already have a train over there. There's Hillcrest Heights behind it, and I live directly behind it in Cherokee Woods. And we're already disturbed by the airport and the trains. I do not want to add another layer of noise to a senior aging community. So I'd like, before I proceed with this, I'd like to understand, because there has to be a purpose in them adding a time frame. because of what they're doing, will still be making noise. I don't care if it's from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Noise is noise anytime. My grandmother sleeps at noon. So I'd like more information about the nature of the work and the impact of their business to the quiet enjoyment of those residential areas.
I will ask the
Okay?
applicant to follow up specifically about that item.
And so just for the record, this is not a yes for me, but I'm leaning in support if we could get some little bit more information about what their impact will be to the quiet enjoyment of those neighborhoods, particularly Hillcrest Heights.
Okay.
Okay? All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Good. And so this will be on the agenda for next week. Do you think you have time to talk to the, get with them
What
before
say
next
you,
week?
Karen?
I'll
I have
follow up.
not actually had a conversation with the applicant, which is not my preference. I would recommend that between now and Friday, that we coordinate a call, or on Tuesday, I'll make a motion to defer into 2026
If you need more time. Okay.
to get more time. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I see no other lights, so we're going to move on to item J, please.
Is that 170? I'm sorry.
0167.
Okay.
Sorry.
I will say 170, I did not flag. It did
I didn't
not.
have any questions, and I've talked to
Okay, great. Thank you.
to the applicant, so we're good.
I believe
going
they've worked
forward.
through.
Yeah.
So 167 is a rezoning at 1309 Chamberlain Avenue to rezone from the RN15 residential neighborhood zone, the TRN3 traditional residential neighborhood zone with conditions. And the applicant's proposed condition, maximum of 4 units and maximum building height of 35 feet. The site's primarily surrounded by RN15 zoning, so that is the old R1 zoning with a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet, which is a prevalent single-family detached zoning in the urban core. And then north of the site and along Duncan, there's RN3 and TRN3. So you can kind of see the pattern along Duncan's changed a little bit. It's got higher intensity and density uses. The site's surrounded by a mix of residential uses, including single-unit detached, 2-unit, and multi-unit residential. The multi-unit residential there are 4 homes on 1 lot. So this is some discussion about it at Planning Commission. So that is multi-unit residential. They're legal non-conforming, but just noting that pattern is there, even though it shows as the RN15. This is the site. The applicant had revised a site plan during the process. This is the revised site plan showing 3 new 2-story units and keeping an existing building to the rear of the property. Apparently, there's a resident that is there and a desire to maintain that structure. So staff found that the proposed development form of 4 detached units on 1 lot does not align with the zoning ordinance approach which is generally attached units. So the applicant wants to have detached units, 4 detached units on 1 lot. Most of the zoning ordinances, the zoning structure has attached units, multiple variations of attached units. So this is detached units, and the applicant needs the TRN3 zone to have detached units. So the zone comparison, and then I kind of have switched over here, but this might be helpful. The applicant wants multi-unit dwellings. The applicant wants 4 dwellings on the property. If you go to TRN3 and go all the way to the end, multi-unit dwellings pops up, so the applicant would like that TRN3 zone. Staff is recommending the TRN1 zone, which was 4-unit dwellings. Those are attached. So very similar. The TRN3 zone is where the detached unit possibility comes up. So staff recommended the TRN1 zone to allow the 4 attached units, and felt that was more appropriate at the location and generally more supported by the plan. There was opposition present by neighbors on this section of the street. The street does dead end to the west, so had feedback from people on this block. Just noting that they felt it was too intense. There's a retaining wall there, concerns about transit folks, and just noting kids play in the street. There's lots of discussion at Planning Commission about this case. Planning Commission found that the form shown on the site plan, they supported that form and the zone to go with it. So Planning Commission's recommending the TRN3 zone with the 2 conditions, maximum of 4 units, 3 new additional units, and the existing unit to remain, and maximum building height of 35 feet.
Councilman Elliott, this is in your district. Did you need any further information or discussion?
No, ma'am. We are in active conversations with the neighborhood about this. We met with Alan already, and Alan, be on the lookout. We may have a neighborhood meeting Sunday if you can make it. I don't know yet. To try to work out some compromises with this, and so we're actively working with those neighbors, and so we're good.
Okay, very good. All right, I see no other lights regarding this matter. Karen, thank you for that final presentation. I know you have a few, an ordinance to amend some zoning stuff.
There are basically 3 sections here. 2 are very similar. It's introducing a definition for a use. First one's residential facility, indoor only, and then places that is a special exception permit in the CC commercial corridor zone, and adds it to the use matrix. So we had a zoning case recently along Brainerd Road, and that led to a broader discussion about reception facilities. It was determined that we do need a definition that talks about a reception facility with no outdoor use. This is being really clear that having a reception hall, but without, particularly when they're in close proximity to residential areas, can cause conflict. So the language in the definition says the reception facility indoor shall have no outdoor gathering places such as decks, balconies, covered areas, and patios, and the parking lot shall not be used for outdoor gathering places, and no outdoor use of amplified sound systems. And some of this we had borrowed from a prior tool in the former zoning ordinance, and so this is a recommendation from Planning Commission to add that into the zoning ordinance. The second is drive-through facilities standalone. So this would be like a Scooter's Coffee or a Dunkin' Donut that does not have any sit-down, no places to sit down. We have drive-through facilities as an accessory use when you have a sit-down restaurant or like a McDonald's, but we didn't have a zone, we did not have a definition of all I do is drive through and get food. So we're adding that definition in, adding it as uses in the zoning ordinance, and adding it to the use matrix. So this is something we worked with the LDO team on to make sure we got this right. We're saying they're not eating and drinking establishments, there's something else, and then we added standards for it. Because we already had standards for a drive-through accessory use, we just cut and pasted those and used those for the standards for the drive-through facility. And so these are trying to address that all you're doing is having a business and there's a lot of activity because you're driving, there is no one parking and eating in the facility. And so these standards are intended to help address that activity and queuing, and so we're just moving those over. And then the third item is, this is a little bit of detail. The maximum size of detached or attached accessory dwelling units are 800 square feet citywide, and there's no minimum on-site parking requirement. So if you have a small unit in the form-based code so if you have a 600 square foot unit in the form-based code outside of the areas that don't require parking, you would still be required to park. And so one of the things we brought up at Planning Commission in October was the ability to say if you have units less than 800 square feet in the form-based code, where you normally would be required to have a parking space, to reduce the parking to a certain limit. Planning Commission said 0, that we need smaller units in our downtown area, and this is a way to incentivize those. And so came back in November with a recommendation, with a draft resolution to reduce the parking for units less than 800 square feet in these zones, multi-unit living zones, to have no required parking. Planning Commission confirmed that wish with some wordsmithing at Planning Commission. So after Planning Commission, we're writing the final resolution and looking at this language to making sure we had that right. We noted that we had a little bit of confusion as staff, and really, I think it revolves around the horizontal property regime, HPR development, which we have brought up before, that is a prevalent use, and we've been addressing different ways. And so this one, we feel is not ready. Coming out of Planning Commission, we're kind of on a timeline. So we are meeting on this week, and we'll follow up with more information. Not that this information is not accurate. We would just need to make sure that there's not an unintended consequence or we're not missing something else, but we will follow up with a specific email prior to next Monday, and then if it is not ready, we would just note that at the time. The intent we feel is right. Planning Commission confirmed that they felt that this is also a good way to incentivize smaller units, hopefully more affordable units in our downtown area. We just kind of have the technicality of, do we have the language right in the form-based code to make sure we're getting there? And so we will follow up by Monday.
Great. Councilwoman Dotley.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Given that form-based code is majority, District 7, a little bit of District 2, of course, and 8, but I'm trying to understand, so if it's 800 square feet or less, there's no parking requirement. Is that what you're saying?
Currently, you're required to provide one space per unit.
Right.
And so, but elsewhere around the city, if you have an ADU, you don't have to provide parking. And so one form an 800 square foot unit could take in this area would be, I have something that looks like a house and I have something behind it that looks like an ADU. And that's not uncommon, but those ADUs still have to park. And so we're trying to tackle those, but we also have attached units where someone could do 5 or 10 or more units that are smaller units. And so if you have a larger unit, you still have to park. If you have an 850 square foot unit, you'd have to park, or 1,000 square foot. But we're thinking this would incentivize smaller units and incentivize what we think of as looks like an ADU, but in form-based code, and because of the parking standard, they're not getting a parking reduction for that. And so we're thinking this is a tool to help do that. One thing we did talk about with Planning Commission is we could follow up in 6 months to say, is this working? Are we having more units that are smaller? And then also, or maybe it's a tool that no one uses and it doesn't matter. So I'm happy to commit to following up in 6 months and a year to say, this is being used, this is how it's working or not. But this is just kind of another tool in the tool belt to see, can we get, smaller units, more production of smaller units in the urban area.
So the intent is not for, because in my mind, just because I know there's such constrained parking.
Correct.
In this area.
Yes.
So, because then the question really just becomes, where are they going to park when they have a car, regardless of the size of the unit?
Right.
So I would like to continue to follow up with you about this particularly.
We can.
Because we already having many issues with parking as is. So I don't want to, support something that's going to cause further issues as we continue to develop in our downtown core.
I will follow up, and it could be that we need more time than next week, and we would just prepare. We're not in a rush.
Okay.
We're just thinking of this as a tool, and so I will share the map with you, and then I'm happy to talk to you about that because it's intended. We already don't require parking in quite a bit of the form-based code, but these are those more fringe areas shown on the map. But I'll share that with you with parcels, and that'll help too, and then I'll follow up with you. But again, we're not in a rush. This was just, one of those things that we had identified as a possibility that Planning Commission was interested in also.
Okay, right. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Chairwoman Hill.
I think that Madam Chair Burrs and Karen deserve a little bit of a merit badge for how to wake people up at the end of a 2-hour agenda meeting. Talk about parking minimums. We're back. Thank you. I too would like some one-on-one time about this, in particular because form-based code projects don't typically come in front of council. And so we need to really know, and also, you know, our communities don't have the say that they do in a regular zoning conversation. So looking forward to learning more. Thank you.
Since we're not in a rush, then I guess my recommendation at this point, since we, the staff, have a few kind of nuts and bolts questions too, I guess that my recommendation at this point would be to not act on this section of the resolution next Tuesday, and that would give us time to have kind of a thoughtful consideration over the next few weeks and provide information about it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That sounds good.
Any other comments, council, on any of the cases? Okay. Just as a reminder, you should have received the applications that will be coming before the Planning Commission on December 8th. Those came to your email box. I encourage you to look over those and scan for your district. It's a good opportunity, especially if you anticipate some opposition, to either show up at those meetings or listen to them. So you'll have a heads up 4 weeks out as to what's going to be coming before us. And if there's nothing else, Madam,
6:15, please.
okay, we will recess until 6:15.
And we have an attorney-client.
Yes.
are ready to move into the voting portion of our meeting. Madam Clerk, final reading, item A, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Chapter 11, Article 7, Junk and Secondhand Dealers, Section 11 to 16 definitions.
Council, we have a motion, or can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Madam Clerk, let's go with B, C, and D as a package, please.
Item B, an ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the unopened right-of-way in the 7400 block of Sonia Lane as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions. Item C, an ordinance closing and abandoning the unused rail right-of-way of a former narrow gauge railroad operated as part of the city's railway system in the 200 block of North Orchard Ave as detailed on the attached maps. Item D, an ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the unopened alley in the 2200 block of East 19th Street as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Planning items E and F as a package, please, Madam Clerk.
Item E, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, the Chattanooga zoning ordinance as adopted by ordinance number 14137 on July 23, 2024, to add clarity, zoning map interpretations for right-of-way abandonments and add as a permitted use, one unit attached or detached dwelling in the CN and CNT zones. Item F, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, the Chattanooga zoning ordinance as adopted by ordinance number 14137 on July 23, 2024. More specifically, Article 2, definitions, Article 8, special purpose zones, Section 3838, FW floodway, Section 3839, FH flood hazard, and Article 18, non-conformities, Section 3898, non-conforming structure.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Ordinance as under first reading, item 8A, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a sanitary sewer and easement in the 8,000 block of Volkswagen Drive, beginning 0 feet from MH number S130031, then 1,400 feet to MH number S130J016 for a total of 1,400 linear feet, tax map number 13001.18 as detailed on the attached map, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 3916, 3920, and 3926 Murray Hills Drive from RN16 Residential Neighborhood Zone to IMU Industrial Mixed Use Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Thank you, Council. This is in District 5, and we have had a request by the applicant to withdraw the application. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve and withdraw. Withdraw. Second. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. We have a motion on the floor to withdraw this item with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to withdraw passes. Item C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 2802 Curtis Street from RN15 Residential Neighborhood Zone to TRN2 Zone.
Vice Chairwoman Knoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am going to ask for a deferment on this until, I think we're going to be out the last 2 weeks of December. So let's move it to the first Tuesday, yes, January the 6th. Because I did drive by the property yesterday and I talked with Mr. Murphy, which is here, on the phone. And because it is not connected to a neighborhood association, I have to do some layer work and knock some doors.
All right.
All right, thank you. So I make a motion to defer until January the 6th.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to defer this item until January 6th. 2026 with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion to defer passes. Item D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 2003 Wilcox Boulevard from RN15 residential neighborhood zone to TRN3 traditional neighborhood residential zone subject to certain conditions.
Okay. Madam Chair, I am once again going to defer this. And this right here is just, oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. Okay, so I was going to defer because I had asked for him to be here today, but he could not because he said his wife is pregnant, and so the baby is to be delivered at any time. So we're not going to be here for December. So January, I'm going until the first Tuesday in February, which is, I'm sorry, I should have already had that date pulled up. Okay, Council Family, somebody can help if they can get to it quick.
Tapping as fast as I can go.
Y'all just, okay.
First Tuesday in
It's
February.
February the 3rd.
February 3rd.
Thank you, okay, now, wake up. Thank
Surely
you. So
somebody has a calendar.
I make a motion to defer until February the 3rd.
Can I get a second on that, council?
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to defer this item until February 3rd, 2026 with a proper second. Do you have any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, resolutions. Now, we've had a lot of discussion about this. We have several, we have at least three potential amendments to some of these. If we can group those, that would be preferable.
I'm happy to read them all off if you all are in agreement to it. I have four.
So
I'm just
here,
wasn't
we'll
sure
get,
the
we'll
proper-
get A read into the record.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we can go from there. All right, item A, please.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee, approving the economic impact plan for the Northgate Mall infrastructure project.
Okay, so we're going to give the floor to Councilwoman Burrs.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to make the following amendments.
Well, so let's
You
go
wanna
ahead
read?
and get a motion on the floor to approve this item.
I make a motion to approve this item,
In a second? Second, okay. All right,
and I'd like to make a motion for the following amendments.
go for it.
Okay, amendment number 1, and I'm just reading off for the record, Phil.
Yes.
What was drafted. The resolution to provide that the approval of the economic impact plan is conditioned upon no portion of the tax increment incentive being applied to pay costs of water line improvements unless City Council subsequently approves the application of the tax increment incentive for such purpose. Second one is to amend Section 7 of the Northgate Mall Infrastructure Project Economic Impact Plan to replace 9.2 million with 8.7. Amend the proposed resolution to provide that the approval is conditioned upon the development agreement requiring that the base tax amount retained by the city be increased whenever the city's tax rate is increased by the same percentage as the increase.
And that's all for
And-
that one.
Yep, and then the last one,
We'll be on the next.
it'll be on the, yes, that's all for that one.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Burrs. So, council, we have a motion on the floor to amend as read by Councilwoman Burrs. Can I get a second to amend? Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to amend with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments?
I guess I do have one clarifying question. Sharita, this is the resolution that needs amended and not B, because the B talks about the agreement between the city and the Industrial Development Board, and the Industrial Development Board is the one that's going to develop the development plan.
So the EIP and the three amendments, we do know that the developer has an issue with one of the amendments. So if we could break out the one that's related to the property tax base increases, we'd like to break that one out for discussion based on the developer wanting to provide some clarification around that item.
Okay, but my question is still, do these amendments apply to the economic impact plan or
Or the
to the next item, the agreement that goes to the industrial development board?
These three would apply to the approval of the economic impact
Okay.
plan.
I
Yes,
just-
all the
I just-
three. The fourth one would apply just to the last one, but these three are appropriately on this
Okay,
resolution.
all right.
And these are amendments to the resolution that is before the council right now.
Yes.
Item A, correct. Approving the economic impact plan. So Sharita, you were saying that of those three that council members just read into the record, that the applicant would be interested in further discussion at this meeting.
At this meeting related to the increase in the property tax base, because all of the calculations to date have been based on a stable property tax base. And what's proposed now is a step up with property tax increases of that base, which eats into the increment. And so again, the developer would like to respond to that.
Council members, would you like to go ahead and have the counselor or the applicant respond to that? Or do you want to break it out and then have that conversation?
I'd like to amend my amendment and amend the resolution with the first two items, which are the water line improvements applicable to the incentive for such purpose if we decide at a later time, and then the 9.2 to 8.7. If we can approve those, then we can have a discussion on the third item.
Okay.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to amend my amendment.
Can we get a second on that, council?
And my amendment, yes.
What are we amending? We're amending the amendment, right, Madam Chair?
Correct.
Why don't we withdraw the amendment?
Withdraw my First Amendment. Okay, I'd like to withdraw my First Amendment and replace it.
Just withdraw the amendment.
Withdraw the amendment. Okay. So I'd like to make a new amendment with the following items for the resolution: to provide that the approval of the economic impact plan is conditioned upon no portion of the tax increment incentive being applied to pay costs of waterline improvements. And you have the rest of the copy. And that Section 7 of the project amount 9.2 be replaced with 8.7.
Thank you.
Million.
Can we get a second on that, council?
Second.
Okay, so we've got some folks queued up that I think have questions about this amendment. Councilman Henderson, are you good? Can we move on? Okay. Councilwoman Dolly.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So my question is, so the 8.7 million, I understand, I think that was explained prior to. So my question is about the no water line. So that amendment is saying that we're not gonna help with the water line? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'll let Sharita explain.
Explain the water
I think I
line
know the
thing.
answer, but I'd much rather it come from you.
Okay. So two of your colleagues have issues with city tax increment going towards public infrastructure that will be dedicated to a different entity. It will not be city-owned infrastructure. Now, the caveat means, it also means the city would not be responsible for servicing or maintaining that said infrastructure, but nonetheless, it's an amendment that basically says, we support the project, we understand the water lines are part of the project, we will include them, but we do not want city tax increment to be used towards the repayment to the developer for those lines. But in order for city staff to apply for any outside funds, those funds typically have to come to a municipality or a public entity. And so the developer would not be able to pay for, to seek grant funding for that infrastructure. The city would be able to if the water lines are left in as part of the infrastructure project. So it's leaving the water lines in, saying we're not using increment, but at the end of the day, if the developer wants to come back to the city, if we're not able to pursue grants for it, the developer could come back and ask this council to fund water at a later date. So it's leaving an option open.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So I just need to be clear because it's my kind of first time hearing about, well, first thing I know is that Hickson is a part of the city of Chattanooga, and I think Councilman Davis stated it best originally. They have been paying taxes, and those tax dollars need to go toward infrastructure. Even though I know that's part of Hickson's, I'm just saying, it's part of Hickson's utility, the Hickson Utility District. It is still servicing Chattanoogans at the end of the day, and so that's my take on that. Is that if we're going to approve it, let's just approve it. It's $8.7 million. This is a equity issue for Hickson. You know, they've been paying taxes for years. This is when I went to Councilman Davis's meeting on the Sunday before, I think it was Sunday before last, one of the residents said, the question we've always asked at Hickson is, what is the city doing for Hickson? This is us saying, this is what we're doing for Hickson, because they have paid taxes. And there is a point in time where Northgate was making over $1 million. We didn't not take their money and say, well, y'all, y'all using that water line, we're gonna give y'all that money back. We didn't do that. We took the money. So, and put it into our general fund for uses for everyone in this city. And so that is, I think that one just threw me off a little bit because it's a project. It needs to be done. And as one of the residents called it, I don't know if they were a fan of it in the meeting, but they called it, this could be their new downtown Hickson. Just like we have approved the BN TIF, we approved the stadium TIF. This is an opportunity for us to do that work in Hickson too. So if we're gonna do, and I mean, considering the cost of those things, this is $8.7 million over what, 20 years?
Yes.
I think. Yeah, so it's not a, huge, I mean, any money that we have to put toward another project is a big deal. But this is the opportunity for the city to make a pretty decent, loud investment into Hickson that is well overdue. So that, I just had to make sure I was understanding that the amendment would then say, we're going to approve, it's 3 lines. It's the sewer line, stormwater, and then the water line, is that right?
Sewer.
It's 3 lines.
Sewer.
So the city said, we're gonna pay for 2. And then if y'all find out that y'all can't get that grant, come back and ask us for 3. Is that what,
That's essentially what it says,
Okay,
yes.
so come back and ask us for 3, just in case you don't get that money. If you get it, then don't come back, then y'all ain't got to come back. Or we can say, we're gonna approve it, and because we have time over the increment, so if we approve it as a package, y'all get the grant money, then we can just roll it into the increment and not worry about it. Is that, am I letting? Okay, I just wanted to kind of understand that part. The 8.7 million, I get that. Okay, I just want to be clear about what's happening here. Okay, thank you.
Green would be the gravy on the pot roast.
Right, it'd be the gravy on it, and so it'd just be, so it'd just be something extra, so that way, so instead of them having to come back, we will already, preferably we'll get it, and we'll already have it, and we can just move forward, instead of having to come back and have another deep conversation about what kind of water is going through the water line. Right.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Let's see, we got a bright board right now. Who's on live? Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo that was my question. I just want to be clear that I'm not for any of the amendments. I won't be voting tonight to support any of the amendments tonight. I do want to point out that on behalf of the people of District 5, District 3, which is 2 to 3 miles from my home across the dam, is the most robust commercial retail development to my district, where I don't have it on Highway 58. And Hicksonians or Chattanoogans, we added them to our city. And regardless, if the Hickson Utility, which is a private company, so is Tennessee American Water Company, it's okay to support a system that supports taxpayers who need water. And I will not be supporting taking that out, but I do want to say that this is a community development project for the city. Where we keep saying Hickson, 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 or we think this is a retail bailout, it's not. It's actually, we're setting a precedence for other dilapidated corridors, including in my district, in District 8 and District 5.
Yes.
The great District 8, And so I want to be clear that that's the purpose of this incremental financing. Like, give them the money because we're not paying for it. We're not, the city of Chattanooga are not developers, but these Hicksonians, is that what they call y'all up there, Jeff? I don't know, Hicksonians, Chattanoogans, they are Chattanoogans, and I just think it defeats these amendments, no offense to the authors, I think it defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do in development in an area that could use it. It's not a mall bailout. I know that that's some of the sentiment. Like we're trying to help the rich people. See, no, we're not. We're trying to help people in a very populated area that is adjacent to a lot of food deserts in District 8 and District 9 that depend on the development, unfortunately, 5 or 6 miles away. And so to my colleagues who have urban districts, including in District 6 residents, please consider that development is just, in Hickson, it's just not for Jeff Davis. It is for all of us, and it should be a roadmap for the Department of Economic Development of what we should be doing, CBL, in other places, because we cannot sustain ourselves on old models of retail development, or you're going to be like a Blockbuster. You're going to be out of business. And we need a company like CBL, which is publicly traded, out of our city to survive. And thank God they're providing a public infrastructure that we're not paying for and that the other people they're not charging that are benefiting from. There's a bunch of other companies that have a ton of money that could pay Hickson Utility for that water line, and they're not. So we should actually thank them and say, thank you for being so gracious for fixing our water system. And we're not. Like, this is asinine for us to have this discussion. Give them the tip, develop in Northgate, and do it again in other districts. I support this as is without the amendments, and I'd like for us, I don't have any questions on it. The baseline, it eats at the increment, would defeat the purpose of them asking for money. It's counterproductive. Let's approve it. Congratulations to Hickson. Go spend money in Hickson. It generates sales tax revenue for us to develop in my district and in yours too. All right, thank you. That's all I got.
All right. Councilman Elliott.
I echo a lot of what my two colleagues have said. Councilman Burrs, I appreciate the sentiment. I really do. It's not personal, but, you know, I think what Councilwoman Gottlieb eloquently put, you know, we haven't done much investment in Hickson over the years. And it would behoove me to ask and kick and scream for investment in District 9 and shun another one of my colleagues' communities who's just trying to breathe life into the epicenter. This is the heart of the economic energy in that community. And so I feel like we'll find ourselves a few years down the road saying, hey, the water pipes need to be fixed, when we had an opportunity to fix it and we're not tapping into the general fund. I think that's something we have to realize. We're not putting any direct dollars up. We're going to continue to get the $500,000 in property taxes we get from this. Everything extra based on the growth that I hope we will definitely see. It's only going to be adding to that community. And, you know, I don't think I have anything else to say, but I can't support this amendment. Sorry.
Councilman Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess for clarity's sake, I do want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So if we, how to word this, if we don't vote for the resolution regarding the water lines, I'm sorry, back that up. If we do vote in support of the amendment for the water lines, that closes the door for any grant options?
No, actually, that closes the option for any increment to be used towards the water. That basically says you're voting for the item, the increment can be used for the two pillars of the infrastructure, but not the third, without coming back to this body to ask for funding for the third, should grant financing fall apart.
But it does not close that door to applying for and accepting grant money?
Correct, it does not. It does not.
Okay, all right. And my last thing is, I'm curious to hear both sides of the last amendment proposition about the tax base, both from Councilwoman Burrs and then from the developer on the why not. If I could hear both of those, I would really appreciate that.
Okay.
Whoever wants to go first.
What was the question?
So on the, let's see, let's start with our TIF attorney on the property tax-based piece, and then we'll have the developer come up.
I'm going to channel like I'm a developer for a second because they've been working me over in the break. But I mean, their main concern, I mean, and I was talking a little bit to Council Member Henderson about this, is when you do a TIF and if the base is going to jump periodically on unknown years when there's a tax increase, it's a whole lot harder to do financial projections, and often the lenders are willing to cut you a little bit of slack in the earlier years because they know they're going to get the benefit of the increases in the later years. So it makes it harder for them to do their financing. It's not impossible to do their financing, as I told Councilmember Henderson. I can't tell you this would prevent it, but it will make it more challenging. The thing that they also would say is like, you know, and I shared my legal opinion with Phil, and it, you know, I know he and I haven't really had a chance to talk about it, but we're not letting them use the sales tax for the stormwater. As a result, there's not enough increment to cover the stormwater. So they're already, unless they're significant, and we know they're planning on tearing down the mall. So you know you're going to take a step back. We already told them, sorry, despite that, you're still going to have to pay base taxes, and they've agreed to that. The 522 is going to always come to the city, so you're not going to take a step back there. But what they're saying is, look, but that makes it even worse for us because we're already in the hole about $1.6 million, $1.7 million on the stormwater because you won't let us use the sales taxes on it. And now if we lose more because the base is going up, that hurts us even worse. So they're willing to live with the 9.2 going to 8.7 based on the third-party report. They're not excited about the water. They will live with it. If they would really not like the base tax increasing, but they can speak for themselves. But they probably get more worked up than I do because I'm on your side. So, but they're glad to address it as well. So, think so.
So we're not debating at this point the tax increase. We're just
Correct.
debating
The first two
the
items.
first two items. So let's hold off on
I'm fine with
that
that.
till we kind of get this issue squared away.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Burrs.
Coming full circle. So thank you all for all the comments. My intention for that first one about the water line was to keep that incentive alive to go after that other grant funding. Because as we had many conversations, we talked about why are we not thinking outside of the box? Where are there other ways of collecting that money? So I feel like I'm more on the same page with you all than I'm on a different page. It was really to bring light to the fact that there's some other ways of bringing funding sources in, so the burden isn't all on the city, especially when it's in regards to somebody else's infrastructure that they will manage and then make money off of, if you will, versus something that we might have access to and be able to manage. So that was my intent of that amendment, was to be more of an incentive to make sure that we're seeking out other sources, and that wasn't the only option. Us being responsible for the funding was not the only option. So if that needs to be reworded differently, I mean, I have full faith in you, Sharita, that you're going to go after funding sources wherever they're available. But I think, as I said earlier, if you don't have it in writing, then it doesn't exist. So to have something in writing to ensure that we've got that on the books or on the record, I think is important. But again, I'm not married to that wording. I just wanted you all to understand the intent of why I said it, that I fully support Councilman Davis and did attend one of his meetings and agree with pretty much everything you all said, that we have to be supportive of all of our districts, not just our own. So that's my comment, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that explanation of the water, at least in my mind, cleared up maybe some questions. I don't think, and sometimes we amend a resolution or ordinance to death to where nobody likes it. And I think we are in general agreement that this needs to happen, that the mall needs to be redeveloped. This infrastructure needs to happen. Where I try to balance that is with fiscal responsibility. Making it fair for the taxpayer, making it fair for the applicant. That's where I'm coming down on. I do know the water has been a little bit of issue for me in the fact that, like, I know that Tennessee American, when they have, even into a new area, they give rebates. Every time someone hooks up, they give a rebate. There's money coming back. I just felt like that there should be some type of money being refunded back so that the taxpayers weren't having to, do the whole boat, but that some of it would be coming back. The thing about the property tax increase is looking out in the future as our needs grow and our service gets more expensive, trying to make sure that we accommodate our budget as well, so that, here again, we're not taking it out of the taxpayer's pocket in order to do this, but as our revenues increase and we ask our taxpayers to pay more for the services that are costing more, that sort of everybody's on a level playing field. And that's the only reason I brought up about having that base jump. And I understand it might make it a little bit more difficult, but I'm also trying to look out for our taxpayers. And so trying to hit this balance of what's fair to the taxpayers, what's fair to the applicant and the developer, and what's fair to the residents of Hickson and the surrounding area. And that's where I'm coming down on, is trying to figure out what's fair for everybody. I'm glad we're having this discussion and this debate so that we can try to figure out where we need to be, because I get, I've gotten emails and phone calls for and against, completely against the TIF. I could say I support this TIF. There are some things that give me a little bit of heartburn about it that I've been trying to address to make this more, to me, more fair, like I said, for the taxpayers and for the developer that's going out and doing the work, putting in the infrastructure, and so that the businesses around it. And I think we need to come back to that, looking at a business improvement district. The business that's around this mall area in this loop are going to benefit as well. Obviously, more foot traffic's going to be coming in, or more traffic, period. And so I just look at how we can be fair, fiscally responsible in addressing this. So I did have a concern about bundling all of the resolution, or all the amendments together. So maybe we want to go back and take them one at a time.
We were trying to save time, but clearly it didn't work.
Well, it obviously didn't work. And I didn't really hear, when we talked about it earlier, I didn't hear really any opposition against that. And so one would assume that everybody would have been okay with it. But if they're not, and that's fine, maybe we just need to take one at a time so that we don't get it to a point that it doesn't pass it off. And I have seen that happen when we amend something to death. So maybe we want to go back and take them one at a time. I don't think anybody's in opposition to taking it from the 9.2 to the 8.7. So maybe we start there and then see what happens.
Chair, if I might
Please.
respond on I just wanted to make sure everyone understands on the property tax increase portion, and we covered this in our last meeting when the chair actually asked about that 25% of the increment that's held back every year. And so, that's held back towards going into the TIF. That 25% is held back for debt service. Our current debt service is 9%. So that delta, that 16%, is coming into the general fund. And so again, every year with those increases, we're still holding back that 25%. And as our debt changes, our debt service ratio changes, there's still a portion that's still coming to the city in the general fund to cover our general services. So just something to think about as we talk about property tax increases. The city will still get its increases, just a small, that percentage that comes out of the increment that gets withheld before the increment goes into repaying infrastructure.
So to put a finer point on that, I remember from the large TIF that we went through with the bend, we had that illustration of a dollar bill. So 75 cents of every dollar will go toward this increment and paying down the investment in this project, and 25 cents will come to the city for us to use as we see fit, designated for debt service, but we only need 9 cents of that right now.
Correct, thank you.
Okay, so, Councilwoman Burrs, we put you in a sticky situation, friend, asking you to just bundle it together.
Back in, and just gonna-
And I want to say, I'm the one that asked that we bundle these, so.
Okay,
This is not Councilwoman Burrs. Do you want to withdraw again?
I would like to withdraw my amendment,
Okay,
and I'm going to make a motion to amend Section 7 of the Northgate Mall Infrastructure Project Economic Impact Plan to replace 9.2 million with 8.7 million.
can I get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, council, we have a motion to amend as read with a proper second. Do we have any questions or comments about that specific amendment? Seeing none. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed to the amendment?
Nay.
One no. All right, do we have any other amendments we would like to do on this item?
Well, don't we need to approve it as amended and then make an amendment to that?
So let's talk about this sandwich we're gonna make. Do we need to approve as amended and then go back and do it double time every time, or can we just amend, and
I
add a
think
stack
you
of amendments?
amend, if there's any other amendments, go through those amendments, and then at the conclusion.
Got that slice of bread, we're just gonna
Correct.
keep adding toppings.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any other motions to amend? Councilman Henderson, do you intend to make a motion to amend? Councilwoman Burrs?
No,
Okay.
I do not.
Okay. All right, council, we have amended this item with one amendment. That amendment, for your memory, is to Section 7 to adjust the economic impact plan to 8.7 million, and that is based on the independent review. All in favor? Well, can I get a motion to approve as amended, please?
Approve as amended.
Thank you all. Can I get a motion to approve as amended? All right. We have a motion on the floor to approve as amended with a proper second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve as amended passes. So we've got item A squared away. Great work, everybody. Madam Clerk, would you like to read item B? Not would you like, please read item B, whether you like to or not.
Yes. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Chattanooga, Tennessee, approving an intergovernmental financial assistance agreement between the city and the Industrial Development Board of the City of Chattanooga.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Do I have any questions or comments? Do we have any amendments? We did discuss one. Do we have one?
I have no amendment.
Praise the Lord.
Okay. All right, so I have no questions or comments on this. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Remember that prayer today, you all.
But I will add that I look forward to Councilman Davis's resolution. That's important to me. Item C, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic Development to enter into a lease agreement with Diagnostic Radiology Consultants, PA, in substantially the form attached to lease 173 square feet of space for an X-ray examination area at the City of Chattanooga Well Event Center with rent in the amount of $300 per month for a term of 5 years.
Councilwoman, Vice Chairwoman Knoll.
Praise the Lord, I have no amendments. I make a motion to approve.
Any questions or comments? As a person who's had an x-ray at the Well Advantage Center, I fully support this item. It's a major time saver for employees.
I thought you was getting ready to say something. I said, oh, no, we're not gonna do
No,
that.
all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item D, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic Development to enter into a first agreement to exercise option to renew with Missionary Ridge Neighborhood Association, Inc., in substantially the form attached to lease approximately 2,600 square feet of space at 36 Sheridan Avenue, identified as tax map number 156 EB001.01 for an additional term of 1 year through December 16, 2026, for the rent of $1 per term.
We've got Councilman Elliott.
Madam Chair, I would like to move to defer this 1 week to December 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council, we have a motion on the floor to defer for 1 week until December 9th with the proper second. Do I have any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item E, please.
A resolution withdrawing Preserve Chattanooga's application at the applicant's request for the historic landmark designation located at 865 East 3rd Street, referenced as HLM 23-1 by the Historic Zoning Commission from its meeting held on July 20, 2023.
Councilman Clark.
Madam Chair, this is a point of information in regards to, by them asking to withdraw, basically we have no choice other than to accept their withdrawal. Is that correct?
The applicant has requested to
Gotcha.
withdraw. Yeah.
But our authority in not allowing that is irrelevant since they're withdrawing to move forward anyway.
Well, that's the procedure you've set forth in the code
Gotcha.
here that an
To withdraw.
applicant can withdraw.
And that we have to make it public when they do it. We don't just make things go away, like the way we withdrew a zoning case.
Gotcha.
So can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Do we have any further conversation? Do you have any conversation, any other questions, Councilman Clark?
No, may I make a public comment?
Absolutely, this is the time for that.
I have grave concern, and this might not be the platform in this resolution to discuss that, but I do want to, as we start talking about preservation, and this is a precedent, and I know our hands are tied on this, just for general purposes, I will not, I know they're withdrawing, but I will not be supporting yes to allow them to withdraw as a point of statement.
Okay.
And that we need to be a little bit more, sorry, District 8, it's CSAS. Anyway, I have concern about us being involved in how we communicate with the school system and doing historic preservation inside of the city.
Okay.
So tonight I'll be, although you all probably will accept the withdrawal, I'll be voting no as a statement that I don't support the application withdrawal and support historic preservation.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
We have 1 no. Motion passes.
To withdraw.
To withdraw, but it's not a motion to withdraw. It's
Yeah,
a resolution withdrawing, so
Right.
we didn't need a motion to withdraw. We wouldn't want to withdraw the
That's why I was
resolution.
at, yeah, that's why I was at, yeah.
All right, I'm going to get us. Okay. Madam Clerk, let's take items F and G as a package, please.
Item F, a resolution to enter into an interlocal agreement with the City of Red Bank to define shared responsibilities and cooperative efforts in general maintenance, project planning, and stewardship of Stringers Ridge to provide a high-quality natural resource with recreational opportunities. Item G, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Parks and Outdoors to apply for and, if awarded, accept a creative placemaking grant in the amount of $17,160 from the Tennessee Arts Commission with a match of $4,290 from the City of Chattanooga for the City Stages project.
Councilman Henderson.
Move approval of 9F and G.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public Works items H, I, and J, please, Madam Clerk, as a package.
Item H, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to award contract number T210100201, Alton Park Connector Phase 1 to Kane Industries LLC in the amount of $1,627,268.60 with a contingency in the amount of $162,726.86 for a total amount not to exceed $1,789,995.46. Item I, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Josh Perrin as a special police officer unarmed for the City of Chattanooga, Department of Public Works, LDO Codes Division, to perform duties expressly limited to the performance of duties in his position as demolition abatement specialist. Item J, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Aaron Acomb as a special police officer unarmed for the City of Chattanooga, Department of Public Works, LDO Codes Division, to perform duties expressly limited to the performance of duties in his position as demolition abatement specialist.
Thank you. Council, we have a motion on the floor to approve with the proper second. Do we have any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Wastewater items K, L, and M, please.
Item K, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Wastewater to execute a project sale agreement and operations and maintenance agreement with Mainspring Energy, Inc., in substantially the form attached for the purchase, installation, operation, and maintenance of linear generator systems for an amount not to exceed $8.5 million on a sole source basis. Item L, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Wastewater to renew the on-call blanket contract number W22006-201 sanitary sewer install and repair blanket contract for wastewater with price increases due to material and personnel cost escalation as attached for year 4 of 4 with Tally Construction Company of Rossville, Georgia, for use by all departments for the annual amount of $4.5 million. Item M, a resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Wastewater to increase blanket contract number PA 100798 with TNT Concrete, Inc. for paving and concrete repair or replacement, contract number W24029-201 in the amount of $3.5 million, increasing the total contract amount of $5,059,618.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, can I get a motion? Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to approve items K, L, and M as a package. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I'm now going to hand the chair over to Madam Vice Chair because the Eagle Scouts were expecting me a half an hour ago. Thank you all.
To this chair, no nonsense.
No more.
Make it clear.
I'll get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
I told her to text me when we're finished.
I know.
Can you sign this before you go or not? Those are those.
Don't start nothing, it won't be nothing. I got the time today.
Madam Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion to remove the Vice Chair.
Whatever.
I'm kidding.
Whatever. Okay, council family, we've come to purchases. Mrs. Tally, hello.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I have 10 purchases recommended for approval this evening. Facilities, a 4-year renewal. Quality Mechanical has requested a 10% increase due to the increased cost of parts and labor. The new estimated annual spend will be $731,500. Public Works has approved the increase. Risk Management, a new blanket agreement for insurance brokerage services. This will be a 4-year agreement not to exceed $1,800,000 annually. The award will go to Arthur J. Gallagher Risk Management as the best bid. Parks and Outdoors, 4-year renewal. Conservation Legacy has requested a 25% increase to the cost of labor and supplies. The new estimated annual spend will be $183,750. Parks and Outdoors has approved the increase. Facilities, 4-year renewal. W.J. O'Neill has requested an 11% increase due to the increased cost of parts and labor. The new estimated annual spend will be $738,500. Public Works has approved the increase. Purchasing, year 3 renewal. Coca-Cola Bottling has requested a 3% increase due to the cost of goods to manufacture products. The new estimated annual spend will be $130,000. Purchasing has approved the increase. Wastewater, year 3 renewal. Source Technologies has requested a 4% increase due to the increased cost of raw materials, transportation, energy, and compliance expenses. The new annual spend will be $2,204,800. Wastewater has approved the increase. Wastewater, year 4 renewal. H&H Brown has requested a 4% increase due to the increased cost of labor and insurance. The new annual spend will be $1,734,876. Wastewater has approved the increase. Traffic operations, new blanket agreement for traffic sign blanks. This will be a 4-year agreement not to exceed $65,000 annually. The award will go to U.S. Standard Sign Company as the best bid. Facilities, year 3 renewal. Sherman Williams has requested a 5% increase due to the increased cost of paint materials. The new annual spend will be $105,000. Public Works has approved the increase. Fire, new contract agreement for firefighters' protection equipment and repair parts. This will be a 4-year agreement not to exceed $250,000 annually. The invitation to bid was sent to 6 suppliers as well as formally advertised. Only 1 response was received. The invitation was re-advertised and produced no additional bids. The award will go to Safe Industries as the best bid received.
We have a motion to approve with the proper second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Talley. Okay, we've come to committee reports. Okay, Councilman Henderson.
Yes, ma'am, I have one.
All right.
We're gonna have a public safety committee meeting on January the 6th, and we're gonna get an update from Chief Knowles, about, some strategies and, positions and, just updates from the fire department.
Thank you. Councilman Davis.
No report, but thank you all for your support tonight. Appreciate it.
Well, you know, that's what we do. We take care of family. Councilman Harvey.
No report, but I am looking to schedule my first committee meeting after the new year, an education session on a few things, so stay tuned. Very exciting. Education committee.
Councilman Clark.
Oh, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for this opportunity to speak under your chairwomanship. So obliged. I do have a committee report, is that we had a meeting along with Councilman Elliott in regards to the senior center at Glenwood about a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember. Anyway, and I'm happy to report that our deputy chief of staff with Darren and Cedric Henson met with a group of community members, and we're pleased, Councilwoman Burrs, that we will be relocating the senior center back to the Eastgate Town Center, and we are in the works of retrofitting that for space that is comparable to them. In our first committee meeting, Cedric, in January, I can't remember what day it is, but it's on the calendar. What was it? Anyway, our first committee meeting, community development, will be to discuss those plans and that potential rollout at the top of the year. Madam Chair, in addition to my committee report, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. And thank our Public Works Administrator, Jay Woods. At the request of Councilman Elliott and I, we have requested the repavement of Wilcox and other areas. As you remember, Wilcox Boulevard was paved during some very cold, inclement weather that was done internally and not by our general contractors. And we are in the process of repaving that starting probably the next couple weeks if weather permits. And I also want to thank Jay again. At our request, if you guys remember, when we passed the mayor's tax rate, we knew there would be some investment into our district to do more paving. The Washington Hills Oakwood Drive, under the leadership of our I didn't even know that you did this until today, was paved. And so I just want to give you a kudos for, I know you're under an extreme amount of pressure to accommodate 9 council people, and you're putting out fires, and you're making everybody else's district great other than just District 8. I know there was a building that collapsed earlier today and your crew was on it, and I just want to publicly thank you. I know you've been under pressure to satisfy our constituents, and you are delivering on those. And I look forward to our continuous relationship and communicating and really delivering results like you did with those paving projects. So thank you again, Jay Woods, for your exemplary work in getting those projects across the finish line.
Thank you, Councilman Clark, and the Lord will answer prayers.
Oh, yes, he will.
Thank you.
He's good.
Councilman Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will have an economic development meeting on January 13th, the same day as Cedric will see us for community development. In our meeting, we'll have we'll be discussing the potentials for what would a bid look like in the Hickson area. One other thing I would like to announce, today is the last day for our intern, Trey Reed. He has been with us the last several weeks, and he has been phenomenal, and I hope his experience has been incredibly fruitful. And we hope to have you back if that's possible, but if not, we wish you well in all your future endeavors. And so, thank you. Don't forget to leave your badge.
Okay, Councilwoman Dotley.
No report.
Councilwoman Burrs.
I just wanted to report that we had a Planning and Zoning Committee meeting today. A lot of good discussion about some items that'll come up on the agenda for next week. And the next Planning Commission meeting, as a reminder, will be December 8th for applications that are coming before the Planning Commission. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So there's only one person left, moi. So I don't actually have a report, but I do have an announcement for the Legislative Committee. Next Tuesday, Carriage Horse Ordinance, Councilman Henderson, and the Air Pollution Ordinance. So we're looking forward to that. Okay, thank you, council family. So Attorney Noblet, so we have some other business here for certificates of compliance.
Yes, ma'am. There are 4 establishments that are going to be opening up that have been requesting, I guess, wine and grocery accessibility here. There's been an investigation done. They meet all the requirements for the local zoning ordinance as to the locations of BJ's Wholesale Club, DBA BJ's Wholesale Club, number 254, 401 Northgate Mall Drive, Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's appropriate since that's been on the discussion this evening. Certificate of compliance for Chaudhary Brothers, Inc., DBA Cancun's number 3 at 1910 Market Street, Chattanooga. Also, SAR Inc., DBA Cancun's Beer and Food, 301 East MLK Boulevard, Chattanooga, Tennessee, in District 8. And then also a certificate of compliance for Jade 423 Inc., DBA Cancun's number 12, 2413 4th Avenue, Chattanooga, Tennessee, in District 8 as well. So those are the 4 establishments that meet the requirements of the city code at this point, and they will be allowed to operate. I think there's one other item regarding a donation here by Councilwoman Dotley. Do you want to speak to that, Councilwoman, or do you want me to read it? Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just briefly, I just wanted to, it's just on here that the great St. Elmo, the one for residents of St. Elmo, have a chili cook-off every year, and they raise money for Station 14, which is going to be replaced soon. They're excited about that, and so they raised $500, and so we cannot give the money to the fire station unless we bring it to city council first. So, is that right, Phil? Is that right? Okay, so that's it. So excited about that, and thank you, St. Elmo, for your support of our firefighters.
Okay. So we've come to the session of council. If we have anyone that wishes to address the council, please line up at the podium. And Attorney Noble, if you would read our rules, please.
Yes, at the end of each council business meeting, the chair will recognize members of the public who wish to address the council, and here's your rules. Each speaker wishing to address the council can only be recognized at the microphone up front for that purpose. You can't have more than 3 minutes to speak, and you can address the council only upon matters within their legislative and quasi-judicial authority and not on matters that are not under the authority of the council or regulated by other governmental bodies or agencies. Do not engage in any vulgar or obscene language, nor use the floor to personally attack or personally denigrate others, and address the council as a whole, not towards comments towards individual council members. And lastly, do not engage in disorderly conduct or disrupting a public meeting, which is prohibited by Tennessee law. Someone commits that offense if a person substantially obstructs or interferes with the meeting by physical action or verbal utterance with the intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting or gathering. Having stated those rules, please give your name and start, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Prentice Hicks. I live and work at 4313 Kelly's Ferry Road, Chattanooga. I'm referring to the building permit for my older stepdaughter, Hannah Wright, and her husband, Andy Lewis, at 308 Matlock Street in North Chattanooga. That section of Matlock Street is at the north end of Spears Avenue. It is about 110-foot long street, and I, with a tape measure, checked the width of the street at a utility pole, which is on the boundary of, actually it's over the line of a couple of lots at 308 Matlock, where Andy and Hannah are building their house. The right-of-way is 16 feet. Okay, I have here a letter from Shannon Meekus to Dallas Rucker, Roshonda Woods, Michael Wright, Brandon Sutton, and Chris Anderson from a meeting they had. This letter is dated September the 21st, 2021. Basically, any building permit on this parcel will need to include sprinkling the house in order to address fire protection. The existing street is too narrow for CFD to serve any home constructed without having the street widened and a proper turnaround constructed. The applicant and all future owners must agree to transport all solid waste originating from the property to the corner of Spears and Matlock. This includes refuse, recycled bulk waste, and yard debris. And basically, my point to council is I cannot find in city code, under building code, that there is a requirement for single-family home dwellings to have sprinkler systems. And so I query the council on whether that is actually something LDO can edict to a potential homeowner.
Talk to him afterwards.
I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It's a long day. You agree, I understand. Anyway, what I see as an issue here as well is Matlock is a narrow street. It goes west. Oh, never mind.
Okay, so if I can get Chief Rowe, if you can raise your hand. If you can speak with him.
Okay,
Appreciate you.
yep,
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council at this time? Going once, going twice? Oh, okay. With me seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion with the proper second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, it don't even matter.